Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys here. Come on in, come on in. I know you guys already grabbed your snack. I know you guys already grabbed your drink and you're ready to be refreshed, both intellectually as well as physically. So I hope you guys got some cookies too. Just to let you guys know that I'm here every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you guys can always tune in to me. And also, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and do all the favors of giving a like to the stream. This helps us out very much to be able to reach more people, to inspire, encourage, and activate. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles there. And also, if you guys have any videos that you want me to react to, or if you have any questions you guys want me to give a video response to, you guys can do that through QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt there. Now, good to see all of you guys here to join me today. We actually do have a guest, and so I want to say a blanket hello to everybody that's watching. As whenever I do have a guest, I want to be very conscious and cognizant of their time and respectful of their time. So if you guys don't mind, I just want to go over some of the thumbnail that we will be going over today, and then we will get into our guest, Mr. Filip, in a second. So later in the show today, we're going to be talking about military dictatorship. And why do we say this? And what is going on? And Trump is unhinged right now. He is threatening extermination. So we're going to be getting into this because this is a very serious topic that has to be had. And there are a lot of people in elected office, even some people who are formerly in office, that are now calling for him to be out of office, to be kicked out of the presidency. We'll be going over that in a little while. But we also will be talking about a downturn warning. You have places like Home Depot and Walmart, of all places, that are going to be warning of a downturn. Why this is and how did they come to this conclusion? We will be getting into that. But first, we'll be talking to Congress, a candidate for Congress who is running under the Oregon 4th District, Justin Phillip. We'll be speaking to him about his policies, about his run, as well as what he would do in situations like these. So we'll be talking to Justin Phillip joining us live here on the show. Good to have you on the channel, Justin.
Thanks for having me. You hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you quite well.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Right. Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. I see you got like the Oregon flag logo when you introduced me. That's cool. Hey, fun fact, Oregon's the only state that has two different designs on each side of the flag. So on the flip side, there's like the little beaver. We're called the Beaver State. So I know there's folks in other parts of the country tuning in, and so I just thought I would give them a little Oregon fact there.
Yeah, we like beavers because we give a damn. So
well, we use it here. We say we're trying to build something, just like the beavers build stuff. So we're trying to build another alternative for folks, one that's not bought by moneyed interests.
Yeah, well, speaking of giving a damn, so one of the things that you are doing is you're running for Congress in Oregon under the Green Party. I would like to know why you are running for Congress and why are you running third party outside of the Democratic parties. Of course, you're going to be running against Val Hoyle, who is a Democrat, and then Monique Despain as a Republican. You're going to be running against them. Why are you in this?
Yeah, most likely it's going to be those two. I think technically there's a few primary challengers, and that'll be settled on May 19th here in Oregon. That's when our primary election is. And I've been organizing with the Green Party for a while, and my involvement, my support for the Green Party dates back to like 2000 when I voted for Ralph Nader, who more than 2 decades ago was talking about the corporate capture of our government. So we've got AOC and Bernie doing their oligarchy tour, but this is something that the Green Party has recognized and connected the dots a long time ago, and that's what drew me to the Green Party. And then I was kind of hoping, against all hope, that maybe Bernie could break through in 2016, and then watching the Democratic establishment sort of circle the wagons and make sure that he could not break through was just more reinforcement, more evidence to me to demonstrate that the Democratic Party could not be reformed. And so then it became a question of what do? They're not going to let us build people power within a within a party that's captured by corporate and billionaire interests. Those are the interests that the party is designed to serve. And they even argued in court in Florida that they're under no obligation to be democratic, that they're basically a private club, right? And they can do whatever they want. So that's a dead end. As Shama Sawant, a socialist who's running for Congress in Washington, points out that if you're a progressive, the road for you in the Democratic Party leads to a dead end, to paraphrase what he said.
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes like, what do we do next? And so then, the Green Party, great platform. I think even Democrats would agree that we have a better platform than they do. Most Democrats would, unless you're talking about the centrist right-leaning Democrats. But those progressive people, I think, would recognize that our platform is very strong, and we have ballot access in a number of places. So, which is no easy feat to come by. So there's some infrastructure, although it could be improved. I'm not saying we have everything figured out. We could always be better, but there's a really good start there. There's a really good start for potential for building people power. And so I got involved as someone on a state coordinating committee in Oregon. That led to, they later asked me to be the secretary of the party, which I currently serve in that capacity, in addition to being like the co-chair of my local chapter here in Eugene and a delegate to the national committee with Green Party US. I represent Oregon as part of the national committee. So I was already kind of doing all that and trying to build this thing, trying to build an alternative to the two major parties that, again, are captured by corporate billionaire interests. Their interests are different than ours. We need a party that will serve working class interests. And so then it eventually led me to running for office, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah. As we see, especially since when I didn't start actually officially voting until 2018 when I actually voted for governor. That was pretty much the only main ticket Democrat that I actually voted for ever. Besides, I voted in the Democratic primary in 2020 for Bernie Sanders. But then when it came that Bernie Sanders lost, I went in for Howie Hawkins. So I've never voted for a Democrat for president before. I'm continuing that trend because of the way they have been complicit and implicit in the issues that have been going on, not just domestically, but also internationally as well, especially in regards to geopolitics. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you next about was there's some deeply dangerous rhetoric. And I'll be speaking about this more at length later in the show. But there is some deeply dangerous rhetoric that is going on with Donald Trump that I would like to share with you. You've probably seen it already, but you even have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene that are now calling for the 25th Amendment to be applied to Donald Trump, which is a huge separation of how she used to be just a couple of years ago when she was more of a cheerleader for Trump. And so this is what he said, and this is why she's calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. Donald Trump has said a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. And so one of the things that I wanted to really ask of you, especially in this particular situation, is as far as President Trump is concerned, what would you do in Congress right now to rein in this disaster?
It's gotten so far down the road already, right? And is he going to listen to some Green Party rookie congressperson from the state of Oregon? I don't know. But I guess, I think there's a lot of ego tied up in everything that Donald Trump does, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this is ego driven. And when I read that statement that I read this morning, it reads to me like someone who's losing, who's desperate, and who's maybe trying to, I'm hoping, bluff the Iranian government into complying with his demands. Because right now he's not getting his demands met, right? And I don't think he's used to that. He's used to being, he surrounds himself with a lot of yes men, yes women, right? People that sycophants, folks that are going to tell him what he wants to hear. Yeah, that statement, he's going to end a civilization, but God bless the people of Iran, who he's bluffing he's going to wipe them out. This is nonsense, right? So I don't know how you get through to someone like that, James. I would just, I don't know. I would try to, what do you appeal to there, right? His sense of like logic, his sense of humanity. I just don't know that he has these senses. It's unfortunate. I have a psychology background. That was my major. I'm not qualified to be, to psychoanalyze folks. I'm not that well educated in the field, but it does sort of shape how I view things. It sort of like shape the lens through which I see the world sometimes, and like what motivates him, right? Like why is he making these decisions? And how do we get him to back away from the cliff here? I don't know that yelling at Donald Trump or is gonna work. I think he needs probably a way to save face somehow. What that would look like, I would have to give it some serious thought. As these things develop. But yeah, I don't know that I have a great answer for someone that acts very irrationally. Right? It's like you can't appeal to them in rational ways. So. Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know that I have a great answer. It's something I would definitely have to think about, but I don't. If we truly just want to change the behavior, I think we probably, diplomacy is going to be key to ending this, and so he needs a way to save face diplomatically, where he doesn't come across as the loser, because we know he hates looking like a loser, right? But yeah, it's a tough one.
It feels like Donald Trump is like a rat that's backed into a corner. And what does a rat do when they're backed into a corner?
Right.
And so when you have somebody that's irrationally trying to look like the victor, like someone like a Donald Trump, it feels like the only thing that an irrational person will do will be an irrational action, because they rationalize in their head that this is the answer. And so a lot of us are now thinking in worst case scenarios as we speak. And yes, we see a lot of Congress people now invoking the 25th Amendment. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to make this point later in a later segment. But when you have Trump, as well as people repeating some of the same things he's saying, like a J.D. Vance, like a Pete Hegseth, like a Marco Rubio, is there any way to get us out of this situation when in reality it feels like they want the same things too, and they are yes men that are affirming his irrationality? And it's like, okay, so what check does Congress really have in order to rein in the power of a president that is run amok? And because I look at all the war crimes and all the heinous things that Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, all the things that they've done. And that wasn't reined in by Congress. No. And so if Congress is just going to sit by, my question is what type of solution do we have that are within the powers of the different branches of government when the executive branch is, to invoke Game of Thrones, is being ran by a mad king?
Yeah, well, I don't know. But also he's just the face of empire, right? So like who's been in his ear to get us to this point? This is not just strictly a Donald Trump agenda, because you pointed out there's a lot of other people that support it, right? And whose interests are they serving? Who benefits from this? Like these are all good questions that I want Americans to ask themselves. Who's benefiting from this is clearly, when he says America first, I think it's like the gas prices are up for a lot of us, but there's wealthy people that run oil companies that are doing very well regardless, right? So there's people that are benefiting from this action. It's not us though. It's not the 99%. But Donald Trump is just the face of empire. So I don't know that we can as Congress, not Congress as it exists right now, snap our fingers and change it and hold power accountable, because first of all, there needs to be the will to want to hold power accountable. And I don't think that exists in the current Congress. And we saw it during the Biden administration when the Democrats, who were supposed to be the good guys, did nothing to hold him accountable for the genocide that he was enabling over there in Gaza. So like, this is an empire issue, and Donald Trump just so happens to be the current face of empire. Before him, Joe Biden was the face of empire. So what we need to totally remake Congress. But I think what the Greens want to do is these are issues that are downstream from the system, right? Like Kwame Ture talked about, some people talk about issues, but revolutionaries talk about systems. We want to change the entire system. And as Greens, we're a nonviolent peace party, and we'd rather do that peacefully if at all possible. So that means that basically a takeover of our government. And so that we can I don't think we don't have a democracy right now. Like even the academics will tell you this is, in their eyes, an oligarchy here at home currently. What we think doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what the ruling class thinks. Those are the policies that get implemented. And that's never going to change as long as we continue down the same road that we're on right now. So we need to do something different, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is like the definition of insanity, right? So yeah, we basically need a peaceful revolution. I know Bernie used that language. He tried. I don't think you can do a revolution in a counter-revolutionary party, though. Jill Stein said, right? They won't let you do that. So, but we're never going to change this as long as we continue to have a government that's at its root capitalistic and imperialistic. Because all of this is why we are where we are. This is why the bar is on the floor. This is why Democrats are only running on just being better than Trump, not actually offering people something good. Trump pretended to offer people something good. He pretended to be like a populist and a man of the people, and he was going to drain the swamp, which is ridiculous. We know he's like the epitome of the swamp, right? So this is going to be a long road. But I think logically, the only way we get ourselves out of this mess is to just untangle it, and we need to get people in positions of power that actually have the American people's best interest in mind, because the people in power right now do not. I'm sorry, I think you're muted, James.
Sorry, I was trying to be responsible. But I want to move on to the next question that I have, because we can talk about, the issues surrounding how do we change our government really for the rest of the stream, and we still wouldn't even cover the surface of it. But this one is moving on to more domestic policy that I would like to get into, because a lot of people are focused on foreign policy, and rightly so, because foreign policy is definitely an issue that people need to keep in regard. But also domestic policy is something that's right in our faces that I want to confront.
Mm-hmm.
So Oregon has a very small Black population. It's about 2.5%. Yeah. Very small. But it does have a bit of a history of looking the other way when it came to chattel slavery, meaning that enslavers would bring their chattel slaves to Oregon to do work. And so even though it wasn't necessarily legal in Oregon, they looked the other way, just like California did. Mm-hmm. So as a congressperson, would you be willing to introduce or co-sponsor a reparations bill that pays the historical debt owed to freedmen nationally to right the wrongs of the collective past?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the green platform. And I don't think there's any part of the green platform I don't really support. And I definitely do support that because we know that there's a correlation between race and poverty in this country. And it's a downstream effect of the history of this country and how the Black community has largely been denied the ability to build generational wealth here for a number of reasons, right? Um, coming out of slavery, being subject to redlining, being subject to the Jim Crow laws. Even when they built that wealthy like Black Wall Street and it was bombed. People don't know that history. A lot of people don't know that history, right? So you have to ask yourself again, how do we get ourselves back to how do we get ourselves out of this situation where race and poverty are so closely entwined in a lot of our communities? And I think the way out is to a massive infusion of money and resources into those communities. If we want to bring it back to like something more resembling a fair balance among our communities, that needs to happen. We need to make serious investments in these people and pay. Someone else put it this way, and I agree with them. We have to pay a debt owed. It's a debt owed. It still needs to be paid. It was something that was never really done, and it's like unfinished business coming out of slavery. And yeah, I grew up in Detroit, which is, I think, statistically like the blackest city. And then I moved to Oregon when I was 21, and my district is even whiter, James. I looked at the statistics. I think in my district, Black people make up like less than 1% of the population. The Latino community is the largest sort of minority community in the district, but yeah, and there's, like you pointed out, there's reasons for that. Black people were not allowed to settle here in Oregon. And so Oregon, I guess, is another sort of like little case study in the downstream effects of old racist policies in this country. So in Oregon, it's resulted in, still to this day, very low Black population numbers in the state. And across the country, it is, we're still seeing it in this correlation between wealth and race. So you just have to ask yourself logically, how do we reset this to get it to a point where everyone is closer to being born into a situation where the American, quote unquote, American dream is a realistic possibility for them, because for too many people it's not. And so we collectively have to make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I support reparations. It seems like a very logical and moral, quite frankly, right? It's a debt owed. So
yeah, there was an article, a report. I'm blanking on the name of the article in the report, so please forgive me. But it talked about how I think by 2050, the average Black American household will have a net worth of $0. And so 2050, well, that's 24 years from now. 24 years ago was 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for people who are, and dare I say, our generation, that seems kind of like yesterday, because I can remember, 2001, I was starting my senior year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important to realize that time flashes very fast. And so I can say with confidence that myself and my cousins and my brothers, we are the first Black people in our family that were born with full rights as citizens in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of these things are not that long ago, right? I mean, we have descendants of slaves still alive. I mean, well, obviously descendants, but like I think someone that was enslaved, was still alive as of not that long ago. So like, it's just like a couple generations ago. This is, it gets sometimes portrayed as like this ancient history in this country that like, oh, we're well beyond that, but we're clearly, one, like you pointed out, it really wasn't that long ago. Yeah. It's just like a couple generations. And two, like we're still seeing the lingering effects of that history. So yeah. time. Yeah, what gets considered a long period of time is, yeah, we have to have like some perspective there, because really, in the historical sense, in the broader, it's a relatively short period of time since we,
Yeah.
you know, Emancipation Proclamation or whatever. It's not really that long ago.
Yeah, definitely. I want to move on to the next question. Oh, before I do that, I want to share this article as well, just for people to see. This was actually out of the National Park Service website, the Government National Park Service. And so for people to see this, and this is under the subheading Slavery in the Pacific Northwest. This one says too many chattel slavery conjures up the thoughts of cotton fields in deep south or plantations sprawling among the East Coast tidewater communities. And so let me share this with you. It says many white settlers to Oregon were free soilers who believed the West should be preserved for white farming families free of competition from plantation agriculture and the system of slavery that fueled it. So if this sounds very familiar as today, when it comes to immigration, now you know why. It says Oregon's territorial governments passed laws prohibiting slavery throughout the 1840s and 50s, but a vocal pro-slavery minority were able to soften these laws in 1844 by giving enslavers 3 years to remove enslaved people from the territory. While slavery was officially banned, the same free soil mentality shaped Black exclusion laws passed in 1844 and 1849, which demanded Black migrants leave Oregon Territory or face physical punishment, incarceration, or forced labor. Rather than being symbolic or philosophical gesture, evidence suggests that these laws were enforced. September 2nd, 1851, Oregon issue of Oregon Spectator related how. And then it says these laws target Black Americans, both enslaved and free, and were part of a larger legal framework that sought to favor white Oregonians. In 1850, Congress passed the Oregon Donation Land Act, which allowed only white male citizens and those with half or less Indian blood to claim up to 640 acres of public domain land. Later during Oregon's 1857 Constitutional Convention, voters decided to restrict voting rights to white male citizens and white men of foreign birth who declared their intention to nationalize. So white male immigrants could get voting rights, but those of us who were born here couldn't. The same convention explicitly barred any Negro, Chinaman, or mulatto from voting. Lawmakers also sought to restrict immigration to only those who could naturalize free white persons, as stated in the Federal Naturalization Act of 1790. So this just goes to show the evidence of what I was saying in regards to your question that you answered very well. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, that was some of the, and those laws I was referring to. They weren't even allowed to settle here. Like maybe you could like pass through, camp a night, but you got to keep moving. That was kind of how it worked back then. Please don't stay here. Yeah, and so it's no wonder that our population is still very small.
Gotcha. Thank you so very much. So and the next one is under your platform titled A Platform for the Working Class. You mentioned a federal jobs guarantee and a guaranteed living wage as part of it. I'm a big fan of federal jobs guarantee, by the way. I think that is a huge, massive way forward for working class people. But what about pushing legislation that favors worker-owned cooperatives that are stronger than unions and place ownership in the hands of the workers collectively?
Yeah, I mean, I think those details are a little still to be sorted out as far as like the nuts and bolts of how that would work. Whether it's like government mandated or we just encourage more co-op sort of situations. But I mean, as you know, we are an eco-socialist party. I think a lot of folks, I want to point that out, that the Green Party recognizes the harms of capitalism and how entwined it is with imperialism and the injustices that we see in our society. And so that's where the Green Party seeks to differentiate itself. We are an eco-socialist party. We are in Oregon the only socialist party with ballot access. We have roots in the old Socialist Party of Oregon, which combined with the Pacific Party. So here in Oregon, the The Green Party is known as the Pacific Green Party, and that's where that comes from. It's the merger of the old Socialist Party with the Pacific Party here. And then we obviously became affiliated with Green Party United States. But yeah, I think we need to encourage more of this, like, sort of economic democracy. When a business is owned by the workers, it's truly more of a democratic enterprise in that way, that you have a voice and you're not just providing the labor that gets exploited to create wealth for someone else, that wealth gets shared by all of the workers, because the workers are creating the wealth. So like what these like how this would all go into effect is a little bit abstract at this point. Like, there are people that write very well about this particular subject that have thought through all the details, but I think where we need to start is with people that are at least committed to entertaining these ideas, because the vast majority of Congress is not. I would say almost 100% of the Congress as it exists today is not open to these ideas. So we need to at least start with people that are open to these ideas and that are campaigning on them, and then we would work in conjunction with the experts, which are too infrequently consulted in policy, right? So much of our policy comes out of people that really don't know how things work, whether it's environmental or economic or what have you. And this idea that if we put these business people in charge, that our economy will be great, well, the historical record does not support that claim. Matter of fact, we've had some of the worst economies in this country when a business person has been in charge of it. So we need to start with candidates that are not bought by the corporate billionaire interests and that are open to these ideas, and that we need to trust that they will work for the public interest in collaboration with the experts that know these issues very well, so that we can draft legislation to make these things a reality. I don't know if that's a great answer for you, but I think first things first. But this is where we would like to see things head. Yes. Sorry, I think you were being polite and so I can hear you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm sorry about that. But one of the things that I think that a lot of people don't realize is that when it comes to a lot of the issues that we see, in particular with certain bodies that are regulatory, is that those regulations are there to protect people. But that's really because a lot of the people who own these corporations, these companies, do not live in the areas where they're affected. And so one of the best things about worker owned is that because you live near or around the area in which you collectively own the workplace, that means you are also directly affected. Case in point, let's look at East Palestine, Ohio. If Norfolk Southern was a worker cooperative and some of the workers lived in East Palestine, Ohio, do we think that what happened there would have happened if it was collectively owned by the workers?
Right. Too often these decisions are made by people completely disconnected from communities, right? Like, I forget who the wealthy person was that was very pro fracking, but as soon as they were trying to frack in their backyard, they're all of a sudden against it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course not. Of course nobody wants everyone needs clean air, water, etc. And no one wants their environment, but they're willing to throw other people's communities under the bus for their own profit, the ones that they're completely disconnected to, which is, and again, this is part of like the strength of the Green Party, that we're decentralized. We believe in like local control of a lot of these issues. And yeah, I agree with you. Of course, it would not have happened had those people been intimately connected and not removed from that community, because then they would share those interests, right? Their personal drinking water. And unfortunately for some people, and especially again, like this like lens of how I look through things, like the conservative mindset in this country, too often they don't get it until it directly affects them, right?
Yeah.
Like Dick Cheney's support for marriage equality, right? Like conservatives are against marriage equality until like they have a family member that might be LGBTQ, and then they start to get it. They're like, oh yeah, this loved person of mine deserves to love whoever they want to love. Or, hey, it's my profit's my number one concern, and like the environment's secondary until it's the environment that's in their backyard, and then they're like, oh yeah, I guess the environment is kind of important. Unfortunately, it has to directly impact them before they seem to get it. They have an inability to put themselves in other people's shoes, and there's a lack of empathy, I guess, there, right? So, but yeah, this is why we just cannot trust these people to do the right thing. They just can't be trusted.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you back for a second. So there was a Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns' power plant was putting toxic waste into the lake, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so there was this three-eyed fish.
I remember the three-eyed fish.
Yeah. And so end up, I think it was Marge that cooked the fish because Mr. Burns said that, oh, it's perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with the lake. So, okay, well, you can eat the fish. And so the cameras were on him. He was like, I'm about to eat the fish. And he took a piece and he put it in his mouth. And as soon as it went in his mouth, he spat it out. And it was in slow motion seeing that piece of fish fly. Because he could not do it, because he could not in good conscience do it, because he knew it would hurt his health. As frail as Mr. Burns was, right? That was something that Smithers couldn't save him from.
I know. Was that a predictive Simpsons episode? Was that before or after Obama pretended to drink the Flint water?
That was before.
It reminds me of that one. Since I'm a Michigan native. Do you remember Obama's like, oh, the water's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, bro, you didn't actually drink it, did you?
Yeah.
And again, and that was like a Democratic administration. That's another great, that was in charge. That we have the money to fix these things. It's just like a lack of political will, right? Yeah. It wasn't a priority for them. Mm-hmm. So what are their priorities, and why are those their priorities, and why isn't providing clean water to the people of Flint top of the list?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you want to like gaslight us and tell us it's okay when it's not. Like people there, I think, are still buying bottled water because they still don't trust it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's your Simpsons story reminded me of the Obama Flint water thing too. Yeah.
I mean, that's fair because and we see this from both parties, right? It's not just people who own companies and corporations, but it's also the politicians that greenlight them, that allow them to do this. Like, for instance, Joe Biden was instrumental in allowing more fracking, even though he said that he wasn't going to do more fracking. So it just goes to show that, they're both working in tandem with each other. And in fact, I say that the corporations really have both parties, both Democratic and Republican parties, on a leash. It's just like how, they say, well, George Soros controls the Democratic Party. And it's like, yeah, and Miriam Adelson controls the Republican Party. It's like they're both the same. Both are Zionists, both are billionaires, and both want to own everything, right?
And people get very upset. Yeah, sorry, James. Yeah, people get very upset when we say like the two parties are the same. And are they the same in every way? No. But are they the same in the most important ways that really matter? Yes. They are both controlled by corporate billionaire interests that are different than ours. Their agenda is different. That's the agenda that they serve. This is why the study by Page and Mullins or whatever from Princeton and Northwestern concluded we have an oligarchy, because there's no correlation between public opinion and public policy. No statistical correlation whatsoever. The only correlation is between what the ruling class wants and public policy. And they'll let you have a little bit of stuff to maybe keep you passive. But ultimately, that's what our system is rooted in. And so it's no wonder that we get these terrible outcomes, or that they lie to us. They tell us one thing, right? Like the Biden fracking example you just gave us, that, they'll say it. Sometimes Democrats will say all the right things, and then that's where people stop paying attention. They're like, they heard what they wanted to hear, but they didn't stick around to pay attention to what they actually are going to do next, right? Like you have to be able to separate the rhetoric from the actions because they don't always match. Sometimes the rhetoric's great, but the actions are terrible. And too many people miss that. So, but we're paying attention. We're trying to hold them accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. My final question that I wanted to ask you about, well, it's the second to the final.
Okay.
So we see that the rise of AI and mass surveillance is happening in this country, which threatens the right to privacy for all Americans, right? With platforms like Amazon, Oracle, Nvidia, Google, Meta, and others, what kind of legislation would you introduce to push these corporations' eyes out of our private lives?
Man, this is a big issue, and one that's like, developing all the time, right? This is like an emerging technology. I think a lot of us, myself included, are still learning all of the potential consequences of this. Like people are going to lose their jobs. There's obviously, like you said, privacy issues. James, here in Eugene, we had these flock cameras, and I know that they're present in a lot of communities. So we're talking about like surveillance or like your privacy. These are sort of tied to that idea, and we successfully lobbied the city council to cancel the contracts with Flock and to remove all those cameras from our community. And I know there's other communities in the same sort of fight. So while that may not be like, I mean, it is sort of tied to the AI thing, because what they do is they just collect tons of data, and there's no guarantee that that data is going to be kept confidential. They might tell you it is, but there's really no guarantees. Other people could access that information and do with it whatever they want. We already know, if anyone who has a cell phone knows that they're collecting our data all the time, right? So that they can better market to us, so that they can sell us more things. And yeah, it's concerning, right? It's concerning how much they know about us, and you add on to it the potential environmental consequences of these AI data centers, how they're going to displace people from the workforce, which is why a jobs guarantee program is going to become even more important, because more and more of these people are going to need something like that as our economy changes. So yeah, I mean, these are all things that we're going to have to give careful consideration to and draft policy that protects people, because we prioritize people, the planet, peace above profits, and so how do we make sure that those priorities remain in the right order? I'm not saying we're not anti-thriving economy. We want to have a thriving economy, but we want to do it the right way, and we want to be able to protect our resources, the people. And it's driving up, these data centers are also driving up costs for everyone. So like our gubernatorial candidate, one of the potential gubernatorial candidates that wants the nomination out here in Oregon, he's proposing state level laws that says if you can't provide your own power grid, then you can't build here. If you can't provide your own power grid built on that's based on renewable energy, then you just can't build here, because they're sucking up so much energy, and then that's driving up costs for the everyday consumer too, making life more and more. I was listening to your conversation about Brian McGinnis, and you guys talked about raising the federal minimum wage, but that's just like one side of it, right? It's like, what about the cost side? What about the expenses? Like, it's because we're seeing, yes, we need higher wages, but we need these energy costs to be reined in. We need our food costs to be reined in, and like probably the way of doing that is to make our food supplies closer to home, to lower the cost that gets added on in the supply chain from moving food from one place to another. What can we do to make life more affordable, whether it's childcare for working families, or like think about all the things that we pay for that come out of our paycheck. And that's why we need bigger paychecks, because everything's becoming more expensive. So it's like, yeah, we need more pay, but we need these other things to quit being so dang expensive.
Yeah. I mean, like for instance,
healthcare, right? All of it, you name it. So go ahead.
Well, I was thinking about what JD Vance said, right? JD Vance was like, well, we shouldn't have to pay for childcare. It's just we need grandparents to stand up. How can grandparents stand up when even after retirement, they have to go back to work to be able to afford in order to be able to live? Like,
yeah, the biggest, the part of the unhoused population that is growing the most rapidly are people of retirement age.
Boomers. Boomers
they
are
can't
facing
afford
a homelessness crisis right now, and a lot of people aren't talking about it. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
they don't have the savings like you alluded to earlier. People aren't able to, because everything is so expensive, because cost of living is so difficult right now, that people don't have the luxury of being able to put money aside for retirement, and this leaving them in a really bad place. Yes, either they have to keep finding jobs like being a welcomer at a big chain store or something, or like end up on the street. These are not great options. So we need to take care of each other. We need a government that puts people first, but that's not what we have right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately,
I spoke, I've seen so many people who place a lot of the blame on boomers. And my thing is like, of course there's, diaspora wars, there's gender wars, there's also generation wars a lot of people aren't talking about. How a lot of us will say, oh, it's all the boomers' fault. And my thing is like, are people who are at fault boomers? Yes. But is it all of them? No, because here's the biggest issue. A lot of boomers, they just went with the system that they were handed. And so a lot of them are now at a point where they may have done all the right things, but because of the system that some boomers have instituted because of their greed, now a lot of these other boomers that weren't really integral and built that system that way, they're losing out, and they're becoming homeless now. They're, they have Medicare, but a lot of people don't realize that Medicare isn't completely free, because you have to pay. They pay for 80% of the cost. The other 20% you have to pick up, which a lot of people can't afford. And then on top of that, some people may have to refinance their home in order to be able to afford things. And then they have another mortgage. And so then what if they default on that mortgage? What if they go into foreclosure and lose that home? There's so many different things that are inculcated with this. And so now you have boomers being the fastest rising homeless population in the United States. And so a lot of times, a lot of us, we tend to try to place blame on a particular set group that largely doesn't have as much power as we think that they do. When in reality, it should be squarely on the parasite class, because the parasite class exists in every single generation. There are oligarchs in the silent generation. There's oligarchs in the greatest generation. There are oligarchs in baby boomers, Gen X. You want to talk about Gen X? People who are oligarchs, look at people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Jeff Bezos, right? They're Gen X. And so, and now you have Mark Zuckerberg, that's millennial, right? Our generation. And so I look at it and I go, now we got to put the focus more squarely, more focused on these particular people. So that's what I've been thinking.
Being able to identify the enemy is key. I guess that's kind of like the thread that goes through all of this, right? It's not any particular generation. It's not the immigrants, right? It's not. The enemy is the ruling class that puts the interests of their greed above everything else. And that's where we need to set our sights on. It's not even, the Democrats think it's the Republicans think it's the Democrats. Truly, it's the ruling class, of which both parties are very embedded. And, it doesn't, and at the very highest levels, those parties, are attached at the hip to these oligarchs. The people downstream, and they're like, well, we're not, no, but whose bidding are you doing, right? Like my congresswoman is a Democrat, and some of what her decisions I think are compromised by the donors, but more than that, she's compromised by her want and her ambition to climb the ladder in the Democratic Party, which ultimately serves those interests. So even if she's maybe not directly doing some of the things, she is a foot soldier sort of in all of this, right?
Yeah.
And she's helping to perpetuate it. So I would, yeah, I mean, I'm Gen X, and everyone always like, oh, the next generation, right? Huh? Yeah, I guess. So yeah, I'm 51 now, and I've seen a few things. And actually, one of the things I talk about, because I read this statistic somewhere, James, is in the last 50 years, so basically my lifetime, the top 1% has stolen $50 trillion from the rest of us. Like that's how much it's been like sucked up like a vacuum. They are taking a bigger chunk of the pie, more and more, and wealth breeds more wealth. So yeah, how do you break that cycle, I guess? And we need an off ramp. And again, that's kind of what the Green Party's trying to offer. One of the things I talk about, you can either perpetuate unjust systems, which is what we have right now. And I think continuing to play this two-party game that's what we're doing. We're just perpetuating an unjust system. Or we can decide that we're going to do something different, and we can get busy building a just system. And I think that's what we're trying to do here in the Green Party.
Yeah. I do have one more question. I do have a video that I wanted you to react to. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, happy to.
Okay. All right. So I want to share this while we're still talking about this, and then I have my final question that I want to share. But this actually just recently came out at the World Economic Forum that I want to share this, and I want to get your reaction to what is said here.
When we talk about capital, we tend to think only about financial capital, about cash and financial assets. We know that's not the only value on which our economies depend. We know that every aspect of every part of the economy is fundamentally dependent on nature, as you highlighted. The air that we breathe, the water we drink, the soil, the oceans that we need for the food that we need to consume, the minerals that we need as inputs to technology and to infrastructure. And without these forms of value, these forms of natural capital, we won't have economies. They are the fundamental building blocks of our economies. But the ways, as you said, the ways in which we have grown our economies, our models of economic development, have been incredibly successful for global prosperity. But the unintended consequences of current models of growth are simply not sustainable on a finite planet. The amount of resource that we are drawing into our economies, Earth's resources, and the amount of pollution and waste that we're pumping out, whether that's through greenhouse gas emissions, whether that's sewage into our water, whether it's plastics into the ocean, is beyond the Earth's carrying capacity. And we know that that's leading, as you said, to very significant direct impacts for society, but very significant financial costs for the economy. We can look at that as you have and calculate that at a macro level. But the way that that's showing up as we're breaching these boundaries and breaching these limits and undermining nature is showing up in very practical ways that are showing up for financial risk for institutions. Lack of water is leading to disruption of operations of supply chains where water is needed as an essential input for manufacturing or power production. The degradation of soil is leading to reduced agricultural yields. The decline of pollinator species is also having an impact on agriculture. So that's leading to direct financial risk for organizations, for businesses, and ultimately for investors. And as you said, ultimately the reason for this is at the moment, the way that decisions are made on an everyday level within businesses and financial institutions is because we're looking only at financial data, financial metrics that are not factoring in nature. Nature is treated within the economy as though it's unlimited and predominantly as though it's free. And the risks and harms are simply not costed in financial terms. We can cost them at a macro level. They're not costed into day-to-day decision-making. And the result is, as a consequence, we've put all of our economies at fundamental risk. We can't do business on a dead planet. If we're going to protect natural systems, one of the solutions is to bring nature onto the balance sheet, to bring nature into the ways that decisions are made within business, to allocate a value to it and to bring it into accounting and financial mechanisms.
What is your thoughts about that? Because it sounds like monetizing the natural resources that come to us essentially free.
I'm not sure that's how I interpreted it. It seemed like she was just saying that the value of the planet, of our resources, isn't taken into consideration when we make financial decisions, right? It's just strictly based on like what's more profitable, and that I think is what she was saying is like we're not factoring into those other things in the impact of it would have on the planet, on water supplies, for example, right? And because our economic system is built entirely on a growth model, it's just not sustainable, right? Like our entire, whenever they measure like how well the economy is doing, they typically do it by looking at the stock market, by the numbers in the stock market. And in order for the stock market to be considered performing well, it needs to always be growing, right? It needs to always be growing. And is that sustainable? Can we continue to grow and grow and grow and grow? And what kind of behavior does that incentivize too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if these corporations, like they are like beholden by law. It's part of the structural problem with the way our entire economy is set up, is that they have like a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profits for their shareholders. So if expecting these companies to do what like the right thing, that's not their job. Their job is to maximize profits, and they have a fiduciary responsibility under our current economic system to keep doing that. Jason Hickel would be a great person to talk to. I've been listening to some of his talks. He's kind of an academic who talks about this whole degrowth idea, because it's not enough in our current system to be profitable. That's not enough. You have to constantly be showing more and more growth. And in order to demonstrate growth, that's why sometimes you see layoffs. I've been part of the corporate America where, maybe their numbers weren't where they want them to be, so they lay off mass portions of the workforce in order to make it look like their bottom line is doing better than it was. They fudge the numbers. They find a way to like manipulate the numbers to show growth. So, but who pays the price? The workers pay the price. So yes, and as she rightly points out, like as we degrade our water supplies, as we use up more of them, like these are going to be the things that, and we're already seeing it. We're already seeing wars being fought over resources, whether they be fossil fuels, water, what have you. These are the things. So we're going to need to adopt a cooperative spirit globally sooner than later, because things are just going to continue getting worse because we have a capitalist economy that is centered on constant growth and constant environmental degradation. These are the things that the system exploits. It exploits people. It exploits the planet we're trying to live on. And as she points out, like all these economic forecasts are going to be worthless if the planet's not inhabitable. If you have as she put it, a dead planet, then it's all moot. It's all a moot point. And we forget about that because we're very short-sighted. How we go about everything is so very short-sighted in this country. We need people that have a long-term vision, and like the Native communities here, right in our country, like the they're always like their mentality is looking 7 generations ahead. I believe is how it goes, right?
Yeah.
What the decisions we make today are going to impact the generations down the road, and so we have to take careful consideration to what those choices are that we make. And
absolutely. Thank you very much for that thoughtful answer. My final question here has to do with dealing with the duopoly in Congress. how do you prepare? And this is the final question that I've also asked Brian McGinnis as well. But how do you prepare to combat the duopoly when they're playing politics by inserting a poison pill into legislation?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is like a complaint that we hear a lot, right? Like, why can't we just vote on this one thing? There's always like something tied to it. Is this kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I would have voted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of gives everyone an out too, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I voted, you're yelling at me because I voted no on that, but I wasn't voting no on that. I was actually voting no on this other thing.
Right.
Part of the bill, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing this kind of with AOC right now and the whole discussion around, funding for the Iron Dome, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely, it's going to be a challenge. I guess the first thing that I'm hoping for is, even if one of us were to break through and to get into Congress, that would be mentally a game changer. And it would be a signal to the public that it is possible. It is possible to have someone in Congress who's neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I know we have some independents in there, but someone who represents an actual party with a solid platform that's trying to look out for working class interests. So to even demonstrate that it's possible would be a game changer, and I think would get a lot more people excited about the project, like you're seeing in the UK, like you're seeing with Greens and maybe Australia too, where a lot more people are getting on board with it. So enthusiasm breeds more enthusiasm. So I think, because one Green in Congress is going to have a hard time even having their legislation see the floor.
Yeah.
To even be put up for a vote, if we're being realistic about it and we know how the system works. The people that control what goes to the floor for a vote probably are going to give us not going to be very helpful to us, but we're going to have to use our bully platform. We're going to use our bully platform in ways that you don't see Democrats, even some of the most progressive faces, using it to build public pressure. Shama Sawant's talking about using her office as a hub for activists, for potentially developing a general strike. I think these are things that we need to think outside the box, because we're there to disrupt the system, to dismantle the system, quite honestly, right from the inside. And they're not going to want to help us to dismantle it. So how do we do it? We're going to have to get creative. We're going to have to lean on public pressure. We're going to have to use our office to help organize general strikes, to get people in the streets, and to get more people like us in positions of power, until ultimately we've got a government that we can believe in. Because I don't think anyone really believes in the government we have right now, right? I mean, most people think we need a third party. Most registered Democrats think we need a third party. But again, it's like the will, right? And so it's going to require people taking a bit of a leap of faith. But I would argue the current system's not working. And in fact, the two-party system as we see it is not harm reduction, it's harm perpetuation. Because our choices are getting worse and worse. And now we've got a total lunatic in the White House. And that doesn't, and going back to the Democrats is not an answer when we just saw a Democratic administration orchestrate a genocide. So we need to just really break free from this. And again, understand who the enemy is. It's bigger than Donald Trump. It's bigger than Joe Biden. It's really the entire system that props up these unjust outcomes for everyday Americans and for people across the globe whose our policies impact, right? Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a big uphill climb. This project that we've undertaken is not easy. I'll be honest about it. But I do logically think it's really our only hope, because I think it's a dead end. There is no hope in the two major parties, and there's plenty of evidence. We just came off an administration orchestrating a genocide, went right into this fiasco with Donald Trump. We need to do something different, because this ain't working. And I think more people are getting hip to that idea.
Of course. Thank you so very much for that. Philip, where can they find you? What do you have coming up next? And let people know, all the things that you are going to be doing in the near future.
Yeah. So, please visit the website. It's justinforcongress.com. So the number 4, like my congressional district. So justinforcongress.com. There you can find links to my social media pages. Donations are definitely helpful. We take endorsements. There's the website right there. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see all the links to my social media. You can follow me on, I'm most active on Facebook, Instagram, and what used to be known as Twitter. There's so many of them, it's hard to keep up. If folks want to get involved, maybe be a social media manager. We're happy to have folks join our team. We've got a really great team assembled so far. And so we're gonna be knocking on more doors this time around. Although my district's very big, so this isn't like a New York City district. You could probably walk it in a week or so. We're more than 17,000 square miles. It runs from the California border on the coast, halfway up the coast of Oregon, and then extends inland to include cities like Eugene and Corvallis and Roseburg. So we're going to do our best to visit all those communities, knock on doors. We're going to see what the outcome of the Democratic primary is. Hopefully we will get some support from some folks that are voting in that primary, that care about the issues that we're talking about, that want a government that's not bought by corporations, that want a representative that will at least recognize that there's a genocide happening, because our current representative won't even acknowledge that it's genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if I was funding it to the tune of like $17 billion worth of weapons, wouldn't want to recognize that what I just did was give $17 billion of weapons to a genocide. Maybe that's part of it. But yeah, we're hoping that we can sort of inherit some of the supporters of the more progressive Democratic primary challenger, should they fail in their bid to primary the incumbent, and build a mass movement. It's the second time I've tried running. The first time was on the heels of supporting student encampment at the University of Oregon, and that was a logical next step for me in trying to end the genocide in Palestine, was to continue to put pressure on my elected official and to demand that I be represented better. And we were successful in getting some of those demands met, but ultimately we need to remove these people from power. I'm tired of begging people to do the right thing. Let's just get people in office that we can trust to do the right thing. And we'll just be talking to voters as much as we can, James, between now and November to get that message out. We do the most we can with the donation money we get. I think we spend about, if we broke it down by vote, what we spent was roughly about 40 cents per vote. For the 10,315 votes we received, we spent about 40 cents per. My opponent spent about $10 for every vote that she got. So we can't beat them with money. We're not. So money helps us do basic campaign stuff, but ultimately, I think it's what I would keep telling people is it's solidarity that's going to win the day. It's the idea that we need to come together, join together in solidarity against these moneyed interests, and that is ultimately what needs to happen for us to bring democracy to the United States, because it's gone right now.
All right. Thank you so very much for joining me, Justin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Independent media, like what you're doing, is very important for us getting the word out. A lot of the mainstream media doesn't like to give third-party challengers much attention or the time of day, and in that way they help protect the current power structures. And so independent media voices like you are very important, so that we can actually build a real challenge to these existing power structures. So thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye.
All right. See ya.
All right, everybody. That was Justin Filip for running in the 4th congressional district in Oregon. Thank you so very much. I hope you guys got a lot of what he was talking about in regards to policy there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. We will be continuing on the show, because let me tell you something, this is going to be a big one. So we have a lot to get into. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you guys know. I'm going to let you know right now. I'm going to be going more faster through the chat because we have a lot to get to. So please do not be offended. But if I go through and just do just a couple of chats, my apologies. And I will be giving more preference to super chats because people are spending their hard-earned money there than anything else. And so I want to make sure that I get those first because people actually donated their hard-earned money, and I want to make sure that I honor that. And if I can get to other chats, then I will make sure to do that. But due to the sake of time, I want to make sure that I am on time and making sure that I stay consistent with that time. I'm trying to be this. I'm trying to be grown. I'm trying to be grown and responsible. So thank you very much to everybody. But first, what we're going to do is we are going to thank the patrons because why not? Why not thank the patrons? Because they actually keep the lights on in here. Patrons, people who donate, all the good things. So here are the tiers for the patrons on Patreon. So thank you very much to Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, and Jaybefaunters. And thank you so much to Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you to all new members in the future. But without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. You guys make this absolutely possible. And also, if you guys do not want to join Patreon, but still want to help me out a little bit, you guys can also go to the Venmo that's linked down below as well. And just to let you guys know, Justin Phillips' link to his website is also down in the description below if you're seeing this on the rewatch as well. So thank you very much for that. Oop. I'm dropping stuff. We getting wild up in here. All right, so let's get into the chat, and then we shall get into the rest of the stream. How is Rumble going to? Okay. Rumble did something funny. Just checking to see if we have any Rumble rants. We are good on the Rumble side. Let's check to see if we have any gifted subs from Kick. And if we do, great, gravy, excellent. I do not want to answer questions for Kick. Sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, we're good on Kick. All right, just want to make sure that we have that. And let me make sure I close these. I don't know why some of the one of the links that I was trying to do to an article I wanted to get to, and it just wasn't working when I was talking to Justin, and it got on my nerves because I'm just like, look, I need this link to work, and so I tried to go through the archive route, and then I missed the outer reach part. Things I miss. Oh man, silly James. All right, let's get into this. Let me make sure that I have these tabs taken down because JB needs this stuff to be done more accurately so that it doesn't harm me. I do not want this to mess me up for the clip. All right. Okay, guys. So let me go into the chat and say my hello, salutations, and how you doing. And also, we're going to get to the next segment. This one's going to be a very short but special segment because I have a special update to give you guys. But thank you very much to Roger Meadows, been a member for 1 month. So clap it up for Roger. Thank you so very much. In fact, while we're at it, let me make sure to do this. I'm gonna set this up. Clap it up for Roger. Thank you so very much. Let's see what he says. He says a robust public investment in the worker co-op economy. So thank you so very much for that. Absolutely. In fact, it is important for us to have more heavier regard to worker cooperatives, because most of the people who are in these United States are workers. They're not employers. Only about between 2 and 3% of Americans are employers that employ people. And so the majority of us are workers. And so it is important to put the power in the hands of the workers instead of keeping the power in the hands of the few. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent for work cooperatives, because that helps us to be able to have a system that looks out for itself, or where we look out for ourselves rather than just our own personal selfish interests. So that's also important. Thank you for the super chat for this, Roger. He said, Marco told me Oregon has many worker co-ops. Consult with them. Thank you so very much for that. I'm going to do 2 more chats and then we shall move on. I have to be very strict. So I do apologize to many people who are chatting and don't get it, but I have to stay on time. Let me see here. Make sure I get to something that is, you see. This is true from Edward. Says the biggest polluters are wars, and most of the warmongers have never served in the military. Let me see here. Let's go. And then just trying to. Let's see. I haven't heard from you in a while, Cobra Commander. Good to see you. Says you are getting Jon Stewart 2028. Just accept it now so you don't get caught up in the social media loop of the news and fear. I hope Jon Stewart doesn't run in 2028 because he would be not that much big of a gulf between him and Bernie Sanders, despite him being a comedian and all. But it is what it is. But needless to say, we shall press on. All right, everybody, let's get into the next subject here. And this one's going to be an interesting one. So, of course, we talked to Justin Phillip. And we talked to him about running in Oregon with his policies. But now we're going to be talking about something that is not on this thumbnail. We're going to be talking about an update here. So let's get into it. So about a week ago, I actually did a story about a woman, a Black woman out of Florida, who faced a court-ordered C-section. And the court-ordered C-section, I will make sure to link that, towards the end of the stream, so that you guys can go into that story. But needless to say, a Black woman was issued a court-ordered C-section. She literally had to be in court while in labor. And because she was in court while in labor, she had to do it via Zoom. And going over that, many people who had responded were really outraged at the fact that she had to face a court-ordered C-section. She did go through with the C-section. She was a doula, training to be a midwife, so she knew a lot of her rights, responsibilities, risks in regards to her pregnancy, and she wanted to have a natural birth for her 4th child. I think this is going to be her 4th child. She had 3 C-sections prior, and so because she wanted to do that, there are some risks when you've had multiple C-sections, and she didn't want to go through it again because she had some negative experience with C-sections. So she wanted to go for natural birth. Well, because of some of the opinions of the physicians, the OBGYNs, they wanted her to go through a C-section because Florida is one of the states where if you are pregnant, your bodily autonomy does go out through the window because for them, it is about the safety of the child, even more than the safety or opinion of the mother or the medical preferences and information that is provided to them if they want to go a different route. And so to some people who may be pro-life, she was wanting and was going to have this baby. She was happy to have this baby. But because of the decision that she wanted to make to have the regular birth instead of a C-section, they court ordered a C-section, even though she was willing to go for a C-section in case of emergency. The mother now has since spoke out. And so we're going to share that with you guys. And there's some things that she says, which I think is very important for people to take in consideration, especially because when you're a Black woman within the medical system, we need to listen to them more because they don't get listened to enough. So let's take a look at this. Here she is, and she entitles it as "What People Are Missing About My Court-Ordered C-Section Case."
Hey y'all, I'm Sharice. I'm the mom from the viral court-ordered C-section hearing. And I want to just clear something up for y'all because a lot of people don't really understand what's going on here, right? This is more than just a sad, traumatic birth story. This is more than a misunderstanding and miscommunication with a patient and a provider, right? This is documented obstetric violence and medical racism right in front of you. Bodily autonomy does not go out the window when you get pregnant.
That part right there. When does bodily autonomy continue and when does bodily autonomy stop? That's a question. And that is a question that me as a cisgendered man, my opinion doesn't really matter that much because I do not have the bodily physical equipment in order to carry a child. Trust me, I know. But when it comes to people like her, I think the decision should be made among people who actually have that. So it should be limited to cisgendered women and trans men and gender non-conforming people who possess an ovaries, uterus, and all the other parts. And so the question is, why are we signaling who gets bodily autonomy? Because we also have to think about ourselves, right? Those of us who are men. I'm just going to speak. And when I say men, I'm talking about us cisgendered men. So just to make it a little bit quicker. So for those of us, how would we feel if our bodies were policed in such a way? What if we were mandated that we couldn't get vasectomies? What if we were mandated that we had to get vasectomies? What if we were mandated that we could not do certain things within the privacy of our own home with our own selves and said, sorry, that's taking away life. That is the seed of life. And so therefore, that special ingredient you have, you got to preserve that. So no, you can't do that. Oh, now it's starting to work in your brain. And then don't tell me that it's different. This bodily autonomy. It's either it is or it is, or it ain't, and it ain't. So yeah, I just wanted to stop there right there because a lot of times people would say, no, it's different because she's a female. And I'm like, it depends. Because look, let me make myself bigger just one second. Let me share this with y'all. If a woman is pregnant And if she really wants to have that kid, she would not be trying to get rid of the kid that late in the pregnancy. Let's be real. You mean to tell me that if you didn't want to have that kid, you're going to sit there and wait for months and then have a late-term abortion? Whereas within a week to up to 24 weeks, it would be less taxing on the body. Why would you go through all that? You know what I mean? And you can talk about extreme cases, but the extreme cases are far few in between. So it's like, yeah, 9 times out of 10, if they wait that long, that's because it's wanted. So, yeah, just that for the sake of that argument.
The right as a patient to make informed choice and even informed refusals does not go out the window because you are pregnant. The question is not about whether you believe in VBACs or, you know, your personal feelings. This is about whether it is okay to take a mentally competent grown adult woman to court to force them to have a surgery, a major surgery against their will. And according to ACOG guidelines, this is unethical. We're not even going to get into the legal side of the constitutional and human and civil rights violations that occurred. This is not okay. This is never okay. All the people saying they need more context, no, you don't.
That part.
Either you believe in bodily autonomy for women or you don't. Either you believe that women have the right to choose or you do not. Either you believe that women have rights or you don't. It's no in between. It's no on the fence. It's none of that. And we need to understand the implications of something like this, right? Because it starts here with court-ordered C-sections. Next, are they going to be court-ordering people to not be able to get on birth control? Are they going to be court-ordering people to get pregnant, even though you said you don't want kids, but the birth rate is low?
This is the slippery slope argument. This is the slippery slope. I keep thinking about some of my ancestors who probably didn't want to have kids, but they were forced to be bred in order to have kids so that those kids will be born as chattel slaves. That would never happen in this country. It happened to my ancestors. Forced birth happened. Forced pregnancy happened to my ancestors, where they were forced to be bred, or male men that were enslaved, or some of them weren't even of age. They were probably just still teenage boys, were forced to breed so that they can give birth to more kids to be enslaved. So when it comes to bodily autonomy, if you're a Black American, this should be very important to you, because our ancestors did not have it in this country. So is this also a race issue? Yes, it is. Because we were forced. And on top of that, not counting the sexual assault that also happened to both genders. And it wasn't just male slaveholders. Female slaveholders also did sexual assault. Sometimes the male slaves too. So does bodily autonomy go out the window depending on if a person is pregnant or not? Gotta look at the history, man. You gotta look at the history. Let's let her finish up.
You need to understand the slippery slope that we are on when stuff like this happens. And the sad part is it's happening all over the country. They did this same thing to a non-Black woman in 2018 in New York. They did this same thing to Breonna Bennett 18 months prior to my situation in Tallahassee in Florida. They did this to Laura Pemberton in the 90s. And people saying, why don't you just leave? Laura Pemberton did leave. And guess what? They sent the sheriff's department to drag her out her house and bring her back to the hospital. So I need y'all to understand the implications of this.
Dragging a woman back to the hospital. A sheriff's department dragging a woman back to the hospital to give birth. The sheriff's department. What if she wanted to have the baby at home? What if she wanted to have a midwife and a doula and give a natural birth at home? You know? Bodily autonomy.
And how far people are going to get what they want. It's not okay. Hey, y'all, I'm Sharice.
So this also goes into, and I'm going to bring the class issue into this, because a lot of times what people don't think about is a lot of this also stems from because of the birth rate going down here in the United States. Of course, you saw people like Elon Musk saying things like, oh, the birth rate's going down. We need to have more births. It is because there's not as many workers for them to exploit. And if the birth rate goes down, that means that the exploitable workers is less. That means less jobs are fought over. That means more demands could be given. That's what it means. So they want to keep that up so they can have more human capital stock. That's what it means, ultimately. So I just want to give you guys an update about this because this is a very deeply important issue. And then on top of it, a lot of people were preaching bodily autonomy during the pandemic. A lot of people were preaching bodily autonomy. But now some of them seem to look the other way when it comes to this. But I want to make sure I play this because it is important to get her voice and amplify it. Because it is that important to listen. And when people say, oh, we should listen to Black women, well, here's your chance. You just got to listen to one. All right, everybody, go ahead and like the stream. Thank you so very much for that. Yeah, I just wanted to make that update because she has made it abundantly clear that what happened to her wasn't right. And I am glad she spoke out. Because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. And the thing is, the crazy part is, she was all for an emergency C-section just in case. But she wanted to try for a natural birth. And if it wasn't going to work out, then boom, they could take her to emergency surgery. But no, they didn't want her to even try to have a natural birth. Because what if it was successful? So, yeah. Let me go into, so due to the sake of time, I'll go back into this chat in a little bit. but we're going to move on to our next segment. So we're going to be getting into this. So we got to talk about Home Depot and Walmart. This is a story I think that is deeply important because they are sounding the alarm literally right now. And if you are not paying attention, we are about to hit the fan as we speak. And I'm going to tell you right now. Oh my God. Are you serious? Hang on. Sorry. Oh. These sites. Oh my God, you have on an ad blocker. Yeah, because your ads get in my way. And I'm sick and tired of it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I hope this thing works because for some reason the archiving has been acting very weird. Okay. So, all right. Make sure I have that. And then okay. So while that's loading, we can do Walmart first. All right. All right, everybody. So we're going to get into this one. Oh my. It's about to get ridiculous up in here, y'all. So major retailers like Walmart and Home Depot are warning people of an incoming economic collapse across the country as the cost of living and economic hardship increases. So let's start off with Walmart. Let's get into this right here, right now. It is going to be a massive shift that we're about to see economically. So let's take a look. It says Walmart sees troubling shift in consumer behavior. So let's get into this. It says Walmart has long been viewed as a barometer of the American consumer. As the nation's largest retailer, digging into Walmart's sales is akin to digging into the spending habits of U.S. consumers as a whole. Not surprisingly, during the company's most recent earnings call, Walmart CEO John Furner said low-income households are feeling increasingly squeezed. No shit, Sherlock. Quote, for households earning below $50,000, we continue to see that wallets are stretched. And in some cases, people are managing spending paycheck to paycheck. So here's the thing, right? People who earn under $50,000 a year, that is people earning less than $25 an hour. So how many of you earn less than $25 an hour? Don't bother to put it inside the chat because we know it's going to be a majority of y'all. It's going to be a huge chunk of you. Because ultimately, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. A lot of these states, I think all the states are about $15 an hour. I know Oregon's $15.05 an hour. Ooh, 5 cents. And here in Florida, we're about to hit $15 an hour by the end of September because we had a ballot initiative that increased our minimum wage up to $15 an hour by 2026, which will go into effect this September. And so because of this, you have a lot of people that have been feeling the squeeze for a long time. And so none of us are at a minimum of $25 an hour. And so when you see this, most of us we're trying to hold our head above water, and it's nearly impossible. It is impossible because of the greed of these big corporations, Walmart being one of the biggest ones. The Walton family is literally one of the richest families in the United States. They're a billionaire family. And the funny thing is, like, now they are seeing economic precarity affecting their own sales within these stores. So I just want to put that out there. Let's continue in, because this story is a little bit more interesting when it comes to the issues surrounding people of different economic brackets. So it says, but it's not just lower income households that are feeling the pain of persistent inflation. Walmart's leadership made it clear that the company is gaining traction with wealthier households, and that change boils down to shift in consumer behavior. Now, higher income households are increasingly seeking out value. At a time when consumers are feeling stretched to the limit, retailers are adapting and changing their strategies to attract new customers. Dollar Tree, for example, has been going full steam ahead with its multi-price strategy in an effort to drum up business among higher income households. Let me tell you how serious this is. The fact that you have these stores that have tailored to the lower class and lower working class, or the poor working class, and now they're starting to tailor to higher earning income households, is an emergency situation. Because if what they're not telling you is that these people who are of the higher income brackets, they're starting to feel the pain too. And if they're starting to feel the pain, then how in the world do you think we're doing? This is the equivalent. This is the equivalent of us drowning, and then we're at the bottom of the ocean, and now we're starting to see whales and dolphins drown. Have you ever thought about that? Like, whales and dolphins drowning? It can happen. It can happen because they breathe oxygen in open air just like we do. It's just they can hold their breath for a long time. But this is how bad it is. That the fact that they are now starting to feel the pinch, and now they're looking for value, whereas we've been looking for it and we can't find it nowhere. Values like John Cena, can't see me. Where's the value? It ain't nowhere around here. Let's continue on. Walmart isn't necessarily trying to target higher earners. Rather, higher earners seem to be flocking there. And the company has seen shoppers across income levels become more price conscious, with many prioritizing value and convenience. Now, this is during fourth quarter earnings call. They said this quarter, the majority of our share gains come from households making more than $100,000. Now, according to the research from Global Data Retail, almost 28% of high-income consumers shopped at discount chains like Walmart in 2025, up from approximately 20% in 2021. And more than 17% of Americans earning $100,000 or more a year now shop at Walmart, compared to less than 15% in 2021. So this is a significant shift, right? It says, but this isn't in a vacuum. While inflation may be cooling on paper, many consumers still feel like prices are rising faster than ever, which is true because we're in a real economy. In the real economy, we are struggling. It says, especially for essentials like food. In fact, U.S. consumers perceive food inflation to be 19.6%, more than 8 times the actual rate of 2.4% in December 2025. So we see it on the ground. Just because the figures from the market, what they report says, oh, it's only up 2.5%. That's not what we're seeing in our wallets. Also, you got to remember, when it comes to things like GDP, you're also accounting industries like AI that are a huge portion of the economy. And Ben Norton out of Geopolitical Economy Report was actually talking about how a huge portion of our GDP is now made up of AI. And if you were to take that away, I think we would be at a negative growth because it is that bad. The huge chunk of our economic gains in this country is due to AI, and all that money is not going to the rest of us, it's going to the billionaires and soon to be trillionaires. So when it comes to us, we're not seeing any gains. In fact, things are becoming more expensive. And now this idiotic war of attrition, this aggressive war with Iran is making things worse for us because it is adding insult to injury. It's putting salt on the wound that has already been there. And so this is why Walmart is sounding the alarm, because they're like, wait a minute, our typical customer base is still there, but people who are making more that aren't our usual customer base is now starting to buy from us. What the hell is going on? And they see the writing on the wall because it's showing up in their numbers. It's showing up in the people who are now starting to frequent their stores. So Walmart's executive vice president and CFO, John Rainey, said the company has worked hard to mitigate grocery inflation. Yeah, right. And that could be a big reason why higher income consumers are shopping there more. Now, it says higher income consumers aren't necessarily cutting back on spending the same way low and moderate income households maybe right now. Rather, they're spending more money more mindfully. Look, I know what this report says, but I don't care. If they're being more mindful, it's because their money's not going further, which means they are feeling the squeeze. It's just not as uncomfortable that it is for the rest of us. They can say, well, they're still doing good. They're starting to feel the squeeze. They're feeling it. It's like me just holding my neck versus squeezing, right? There's a difference, right? They're starting to feel the hold, but they don't feel the squeeze. But guess what? Wait till that constriction happens. And it is going to happen. And this is why there's a lot of people that are signaling, saying things are worse than what they really are. It's just that if the stock market is a barometer for you, how the economy is doing, that's like looking through a window, but somebody has a picture of a painting in front of the window, and you think everything is all good. But guess what, baby? On the outside, we see how it actually feels. And that hurricane is pummeling us down. You can look at that painting all you want through that window, but that doesn't give you the actual barometer of what's really going on. Rent has went up. Electric has went up. Your light bill is crazy. I know it is, because ours is too. Have you gotten gas lately? Have you managed to shake your head when you saw the price of how much it costs to fill up your tank? Can you fill up your tank? Are you one of those, just give me $2 on pump number 6? Are you one of those? Because I bet you a lot of you guys are. I bet you when you go to the meat aisle, you pick up that pack of ground beef, you're trying to get the lowest amount. Story time. I had went and got myself some butterball ground turkey because, I'm trying to be healthy, right? And it is supposed to be 2 pounds. No, it's supposed to be a 1 pound, right? It's a pound of ground turkey. And that pound of ground turkey costs like $7-8, I think it was, somewhere around there. It's a lot for a pound of ground turkey. And so, being the healthy, conscious person I am, I weigh my portions out because I'm counting calories. And it's supposed to be a pound. 16 ounces equals 1 pound. I roll out my first ball, and to make it a patty, because even though a serving is supposed to be 4 ounces, I'm like, bump that. Give me 8 ounces. I can afford the calories. And so I put that there. I get the rest. It's supposed to be 8 ounces. I can't tell you how many times it came out to 7.5. Where my half ounce go? Butterball, where my half ounce at? I want my half ounce. Because I'm spending that much money for a pound. If you're shorting me a half ounce, that's not a whole pound. I want the pound. Give me the pound. And they won't give it to me. Because they are giving me less than what it actually says on the package. Which means that they are stealing from me because it's false advertising. It says a pound. Are you counting the juice inside of it? Anyway, so this is the pinch that I'm talking about we're feeling. And companies are price gouging us up the yin yang just so that they can make more money for their shareholders. Because like what Justin Phillips said, the shareholders and the CEO has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. And that is by law. That's not just something that they do on a whim. They have to by law. So let me continue here. It says rather they're spending their money mindfully. This could mean trending down on essentials, seeking value on what they can afford, prioritizing convenience alongside price. Walmart allows for all three, but Walmart is changing customers' mix more than company-specific story. It is a signal about the broader economy. So it says when higher income households begin to prioritize savings and value, it suggests that consumers may want or need to be more cautious overall. For Walmart, seeing the uptick in higher income consumers is a positive thing. For the retail industry broadly, it may not be. If higher income consumers are pulling back or becoming more selective in how they spend their money, that could weigh on retailers that don't have the pull, footprint, or ability to lower prices the way Walmart does, aka smaller businesses, small grocery stores, small mom and pop shops that still exist even after all the BS that our system has done to them. And so essentially, that's what they're dealing with. So the ridiculousness is wide-ranging. It says, meanwhile, as shoppers continue to cut back on spending on a large degree, it could set the stage for a recession. That's something consumers across all income ranges need to worry about. And let me be real with you, we are incoming for a global recession. A global recession. And I am irritated because this article, is that going to let me? Dang it. So the article that I had, I tried to get around it, but they're basically telling me I have to take my ad blocker off, and I am not about to take my ad blocker off because I have it on for a reason. But it's basically the same thing that Home Depot was reporting. And Home Depot was basically saying that one of the issues that they are dealing with right now is that a lot of people are spending less when it comes to anything extra, right? Even when it comes to like updating their appliances, getting a new dishwasher, a new stove, a new refrigerator, things like that. And so because a lot of people are now starting to spend their sales for things that are below $1,000 is going up. And on top of that, the primary sales of things are more in DIY fixing things instead of buying new appliances and things like that. And so because more people are focused on repairing things than buying brand new, that also shows that people are basically going to be using these items until the wheels fall off, because they don't have enough money to update their stove or the refrigerator or the dishwasher, things like that. They don't have the money to update those things. So they're just going to keep what they have. And then if it needs to be repaired, they'll need to be repaired. And so places like Home Depot, like when it comes to, they even talked about how when it comes to home improvements and fixing things up, because a lot of times, we're getting into the spring season. A lot of people who may want to do home repairs or home renovations or fixing things up, sprucing things up in their house, they're not doing it that much anymore. They are just trying to fix what they already have and then just leave it the way it is because they just can't afford to do it. Couple this with people who can't really refinance their home because they probably already did it during the pandemic recession. And so they can't refinance their home. There's all these different things that are happening in regards to making sure that, things are copacetic within their household. When it comes to plumbing, electrical, and all these different things. And people are probably just going online, looking up how to repair this so they won't even have to call a repair person. This reminds me exactly of when I went to a job interview with AutoZone weeks ago, right? And the district manager told me that they're opening 500 new stores. 500 new stores, AutoZone. Why are they able to do this when we are approaching a recession? Because many people are not buying new cars. They're not. And the reason why is because it is too expensive to get into a new car payment. These car payments are extremely expensive. The interest rates are super high. So people are like, no, I will not get a brand new car. I'm just going to fix up what I have. And they're going to places like Discount Auto Parts, Napa Auto Store, and AutoZone in order to fix up their own cars. And so if you know a lot about cars and you want to make a few extra bucks, set up a YouTube channel and showing people how to fix up their car, and put a camera on you and show you fixing it and teaching people how to do it. Because you may just be able to make a little bit more money, by doing that. Just, pro tip. But a lot of people are now not spending money on buying new things. They're just fixing what they have, which also is a signal for the economy, the larger economy. And so all this, plus what's going on with the war in Iran, is also making these things more expensive. Think about all the pieces and parts that come from other nations that we have to purchase. These large ships, these container ships that bring products and parts from other countries, those ships run on diesel fuel. Diesel fuel is made from oil. Shipping those from those shipping containers in those ports takes trucks and trains. The trucks and trains run on diesel fuel. So guess what? Everything goes up in price, even repairing things. But it is better than to repair something and do the labor yourself than it is to buy it brand new, because then everybody's going to want to cut. And so this is speaking for the larger economy. Many of you are already feeling it. But what you're feeling right now is what a lot of these big corporations, they're starting to now notice. We've been talking about this for, God, how long have we been talking about this, right? For the last, 2 years? I've been talking about how, a recession is coming. I think we are overdue for the announcement. I think we are in a recession, but it's not affecting the wealthy. So therefore, to them, we're not in a recession. It's not a recession until the wealthy have to tighten their belt, which means this is the divide between two Americas. There's two different Americas. There's the Americas that we live in, and then there's the Americas where the wealthy 10%, 1% live in. They do not live in the same America that you and I do. And they want to keep it that way. And so when we're experiencing a recession, that's how bad it is. Now, when they start to feel a recession, that means you, me, your mama, your daddy, your grandma, your grandpa, everybody and their mama is experiencing a depression. And it is coming. And I'm going to tell you right now, we live in an economy that favors not the people, but the military industrial complex and the war, which we will get to in the next segment. And that's essentially the way it is here, right? So as we can see from the report in Walmart and in Home Depot, the people who are more solidly middle class and higher earners are looking for value. It means that they're starting to feel the strangle of this economic system. If they're being strangled, that means we're drowning. And this is why I have said ad nauseum that we should focus on more mutual aid and building dual power, because we will be the ones harmed the most by this catastrophe. Home Depot and Walmart are sending out the warning. Are we going to provide a solution? Go ahead and give a like to the stream, everybody. Thank you so very much for that. And we're going to get into the chat. Let me check to see. Oh, now you want to work. Now the article wants to show up. Is Mercury in Gatorade right now? Because things are working really weird right now today. Mercury must be in Gatorade. I know exactly what the actual word is, but I'm just trying to be funny. But yeah, it's in Gatorade right now, and I just do not like it. All right, so let's get into the let's get into the chat. This is crazy. This is crazy. All right. All right, I'm going to do, because of the sake of time, I'm going to do 5. 5 chats. Do we have any super chats? I'm going to check on that first. Let me see. Do we have any? No. Okay. So let's go here. Let me see. Thank you very much for this. Jacqueline says, and isn't it funny how you never hear men being mandated to get vasectomies, but you hear of women being mandated to be sterilized quite a lot, especially historically. I hear the reverse, because here in the United States, if a woman, let's say you have a young woman, and let's say for some reason, it could be medical, it could be personal, that she wants to get her tubes tied. She does not want to ever get pregnant. Doctors will resist and say, well, you may change your mind later. Let's say she's dead set on it. She has made it up in her mind, in her heart of hearts. She has made her decision. And if she could do it with a magic wand, she would instantly right there. Doctors will stop her and say, you may regret that decision. No, we're not going to do it. Or it's, well, have you talked to your husband about it? We need to get consent from your husband first. Now, there are some women who have had kids, 1, 2, maybe 3, and then they decide, you know what, I want to get my tubes tied. They're still said, well, you may want more later. Or have you consulted your husband about it? Or we need to get approval from your husband. Mm-hmm. That's how it works here in these United States. Mm-hmm. Now, if let's say a guy is 18, 19 years old, he's considered legally an adult, he's in his prime years. All he has to do is look at a female and she can become pregnant. That's it. Right? If he decides to get a vasectomy, all right. Have you thought it over? Yeah? Okay. All right, let's go. It is wild, man. But, and it's much easier to get a vasectomy than it is for women to get their tubes tied. Much easier. And it's also reversible too. But yeah, that's how it is in this country. Let's continue on. Kip DR says Elon only cares about birth rates for white people. That is true. That is, yep, yeah. We gotta call it like we see it. That's how Elon is. Human Rights for All says, and my ancestor ethnic cleansing. Interesting. Mouse says, I made less than $20,000 last year, but I was unemployed for 5 months. Yeah, but still, it's like the fact that $20,000, you know, for 7 months of work, that's nothing. Hell, I don't care. Even if you made like $60,000, that's still nothing. I consider anybody that makes, I say anybody that makes less than $40 an hour, you're pretty much living in poverty in some way, shape, or form. You're drowning. You are drowning. Because even if, let's say, even if you live in one of the cheaper states, let's say Mississippi, Kentucky, Louisiana, Wyoming, whatever, right? Let's say you live there, and the cost of, and I'm sorry, the cost to rent an apartment is cheaper, right? That doesn't mean that the food prices will be that much lower. It doesn't mean the healthcare prices will be that much lower. So you still are, you know, being shafted in some way, shape, or form. A court lord, and then we have one more chat that we're going to go through. It says, I got lucky and sold silver when it was over over $100, made $41,000, went straight into a fund for my kids. Good for you, a court lord. You know, you know, a lot of us, you know, that was a blessing. That was definitely a blessing. You see. And yes, thank you very much for this, Mary Ploppins. Sounds like you're paying for the packaging. Yeah. Yeah. I want my half a pound. I'm sorry, my half an ounce. Give me my half an ounce. I want my full pound. Butterball. My goodness, man. All right, guys, let's go to the final. Gosh. This final segment, and make sure to take the poll. But this final segment is wild. So, gosh, I was telling a comrade about this earlier. I have so many links to go through. It is crazy. But yes, it's wild, y'all. And I'm just trying to make sure I have my stuff set up before I get into this, because it's a lot. It is a lot. Okay. All right. So let's go over into this. Of course, we talked to Justin Phillip, and then we talked about the economic downturn that is going to be coming, a warning from Home Depot and Walmart. But now we're going to be talking about a military dictatorship. We got to get into this. We're talking about Trump threatening extermination. And yes, I had to meme it out. You have military industrial complex in the U.S. government, U.S. soldiers, and then you have U.S. citizens drowning. Let's get into it, y'all. Make sure I share this.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection, because the United States can't take care of daycare.
There's only one thing that stands in the way of you and me having the material benefits that actually will be meaningful to our lives to help us live the life that we need to live. And that is the military industrial complex. This is what we are experiencing here in these United States. These United States is ran by a military dictatorship, because ultimately we're more concerned with war. It's like what Tupac said, they have money for wars, but can't feed the poor. And this is exactly why. The military industrial complex is constantly taking food out of our mouths in order to murder and massacre people abroad, as we have been seeing lately. Let's get into this report out of Anti-War News, because this also shows that Trump is set to unveil a $1.5 trillion military budget. And so this is by David DeCamp of antiwar.com. He said President Trump is expected to unveil his request for a $1.5 trillion military budget for the 2027 fiscal year on Friday, marking a 50% increase from this year's already massive budget. The 2026 military budget marked the first to officially exceed $1 trillion, which was achieved by Congress passing a 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, worth about $900 billion, and combining it with a $150 billion in supplemental military spending that was included in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, a reconciliation bill that became law last year. Says the White House is expected to go with a similar strategy to reach $1.5 trillion and may request NDAA worth about $1 trillion or less and seek supplemental spending bill for $400 to $600 billion. Republican leadership in Congress has already begun working on the potential supplemental. So as you can see, Donald Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth stating there, said the Trump administration is also expected to soon ask Congress for $200 billion in emergency spending for the Iran war, mainly to replenish the air defense munitions and missiles used so far in the conflict, which has been raging for more than 1 month. It is unclear that if the $200 billion for the Iran war will be in addition to the supplemental for the 2027 budget. It says Reuters report said that the massive $1.5 trillion will include the $185 billion Golden Dome project, Trump's plan for a major new missile defense system for all the territory of the United States, which will be a major boondoggle for U.S. weapons makers and may spark a new arms race. It says the report said that the administration also plans to use the money to fund more weapons production with the goal of deterring China and replenish weapons used in the Middle East and wars in Ukraine. Here's my question. Deterring China, what does that mean? Because let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's keep it a buck. China is not a military threat to the United States. They are not whatsoever. Just because they're doing better economically doesn't mean they're trying to threaten us militarily. And they're doing better than us economically, not because they want to take not because they want to take us over, but because they're trying to provide for their people. Every single accusation is a confession when it comes to the United States, because the United States is afraid that China will do to us what the United States wants to do to China. The United States wants to go to war with China, but they can't because China is a nuclear superpower. The United States wants to go to war with Russia, but Russia is a nuclear superpower. Why the United States can't go to war with North Korea? Because North Korea is also a nuclear power. So here's the issue. They're saying we're trying to do this to fight China when China ain't even thinking about us like that. They don't care. They're doing their thing over there. And so all this excuse, but China, they don't want war. If anything, they want a good relations. They want good economic relations. But they don't want war with us. What is that going to get them? What is that going to gain them? They're not trying to take anything over. If you look at the real news about what's going on, they're not trying to take anything over. They're just trying to uplift their people. And so when it comes to the excuses that's come up with the United States and China, it's always a ploy to push for more military spending so that we give more money to the military industrial complex. That defense spending, that $1.5 trillion is not going to you, it's not going to me, it's going to General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all these different military contractors that are making millions, billions off of us. That's what they're doing. And it's going to the people at the top of these countries. Because to them, war is a business. And people dying because of these death machines is just the cost of doing business. And so instead of it going to us, instead of that, let's say 75% of it, right? I'm sorry, let's say 65% of it. Let's just say $1 trillion of it. Let's just limit our defense budget to $500 billion, right? That other $1 trillion could be going to us to pay for things that would benefit us. But instead, it's not. It's an excuse. That's part of the reason why the United States is at war with Iran, because the military-industrial complex needs their palms greased. And that's why. Let's continue on the article. So, it says Bloomberg reported that the White House budget plan will frame the Republicans' midterm election message around a massive military buildup, partially paid for by cuts to domestic agencies. The request will come as the U.S. appears to be on the cusp of launching ground operations against Iranian islands and ports, which could lead to significant U.S. casualties. And so, one of the things I think that this is indicative of is that all these cuts, somebody put out a tweet of all the different cuts that is set to be on the chopping block. And one of them, I have to go back and look again, was LIHEAP. And I talked about LIHEAP on this channel before. LIHEAP is an acronym for Low Income Housing Energy Assistance Program, meaning that people who are low income, this is for twice a year, you can get assistance for your electric and heating bills that is government funded. And so let's say it is about to become summer, it's about to become hot, and you don't have, and your electricity bill is way too high and you can't afford to pay it, and they're about to shut you off, or you have been shut off. LIHEAP will come in and they will pay for it, and then you can get your power back on, and then you can continue on. Just as long as they know, like, you can pay the next month. It's basically a safety net. And it's the same thing, they do it for winter. So they do it for summer and winter. That's why you can only utilize them 2 times a year. So each household can utilize them twice a year. But if that gets cut, and this is supposed to take effect in 2027, next year, you may see people dying of heat stroke who are low income, or they could be retired and living just on Social Security. But you will see people dying of heat stroke more. And in the wintertime, you will see people getting hypothermia and dying because they froze to death. I'm not kidding. I'm not being hyperbolic, because that's what LIHEAP does. It helps people to be able to afford heating and cooling costs. And if they can't afford it, where do they have to turn to? They don't have anywhere, because it's being cut, because they need to use that money to murder children abroad. This is part of what it is. And the reason why I played that clip first is because Trump is basically saying nothing for y'all. The whole leave it to the states basically means that he doesn't want the federal government to provide any type of services. And if you leave it to the states, yes, of course, the states may be able to pick some things up. But you got to remember, when it comes to states, they are currency issuers, not currency they're currency users, not currency issuers. So their funds are limited, which means that they can't do universal programs as readily as the federal government can. On top of that, not only can they not do universal programs like the federal government can, this also means that they would have to raise taxes on the wealthy, and the wealthy would push hard as they can to make sure that they don't get any taxes raised on them. And so, and they control the levers of government even at the state level. So then you're screwed when it comes to the states. And then what if people start dying more in these states? Well, according to people like Donald Trump, the federal government can't take over. They can't safeguard the lives of people. Because to them, it doesn't mean protecting the people. And protecting the people doesn't just mean militarily. If we're supposed to have a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, I think that should involve other things like healthcare, housing, education, things like that. But Donald Trump is unhinged. He is unhinged. And I just want to share this as well. He also says, screw you on gas prices, because he doesn't care. Let's jump into this.
First one, the best scenario is gas prices. Today they had $4.
We're $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us in 6 months.
But Americans are feeling the effects in the interim.
And they're also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon. And they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record.
Hold on. Nobody gives a fuck about stock prices. Real working people don't give a damn about those stock prices. Shut up about the damn stock market, because the stock market ain't helping me afford groceries at the grocery store. The stock market ain't helping me to be able to afford my light bill. The stock market is not helping me to be able to afford more housing. Shut your pie hole, Don, because when you talk about this, it shows that you don't know a damn thing about what we go through as working class people. Oh, the stock market's doing. Oh, shut up. Shut up. Because it's people like you and the cronies around you as the reason why you got people that are homeless in these streets. I was just talking to Justin Phillip. And one of the highest and fastest growing populations is boomers. Boomers are becoming homeless. Mama, daddy, grandma, and grandpa are homeless now because of people like you. And don't think just because, oh, you're a liberal, you're a Democrat, you're a progressive, you guys are off the hook. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because guess who is also complicit in this? Some of them, if not almost all of them. Because every single time there was an opportunity to circumvent the corporations in favor of the working class, oh, we can't do it because of the Republicans and we blah, 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 blah. But then when Donald Trump actually goes through with things, then he shows that he can actually circumvent y'all. Then it's like, oh my God, like he has so much power. But yet another president gets in power and you can't do it. So Donald Trump can do this for the big corporations, and he has all that power. But then when somebody has the same power, when they get into office, oh, they can't do it. They can't do jack squat. They can't do diddly squat. They can't do Dickie McGee's acts. All because y'all want to feign and say, well, we got to follow the rule of law. Guess what? He was able to do it by executive order. And if he was able to do it by executive order and the judges approved it, then what makes you think that a president who's actually fighting for the people can't? It's because you didn't want to, because that means you need him to fundraise off of. That's what it is. We see y'all. We see y'all. We see you leaving the door unlocked so the wolf can come in and ravage us. You close the gate, but you don't lock it on purpose. And then it goes, well, if you want us to lock it, then you guys got to vote for our Act Blue. He's your attack dog. Donald Trump is the attack dog that the Democrats use to keep us complicit in voting for them. Donald Trump is the boogeyman that parents tell their kids that if they don't behave, that boogeyman is going to come after them. But the only difference is the boogeyman does come. And the Democrats don't do a thing to actually protect us from said boogeyman because they need us to be complicit, not complicit. They need us to acquiesce to them and donate to them because politics for both parties is a money-making business. That's all it is. That's all it has been. He doesn't care about us, and they know it.
To a record because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini who sadly is no longer with us.
And here's the crazy part. Khamenei was the moderate. His son is the radical. Trump done messed up every which way. He messed up because Donald, you killed the moderate. Now you get the radical. You thought that things would change. There wasn't regime change. There was a regime strengthening. There was a government strengthening. And as we look at it, by midterm elections this November, there will be regime change upcoming technically here. And I say technically because even if a Democrat gets into office, it's not really regime change because Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin. But technically, yeah, there will be regime change, but we'll be in the United States. And Donald Trump will not be in power. There's reports that J.D. Vance is not even looking for election for president because he knows how unpopular things really are. He knows. J.D. Vance may really like sofas, but he ain't stupid. And so this happened the other day. And Donald Trump said this. He said Tuesday will be power plant day today and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. This is Donald Trump becoming unhinged because he's losing. He's losing the war because he underestimated the power and military prowess of Iran. I was going to bring this up later, but I think it's appropriate to do this now because Tucker Carlson actually addressed Donald Trump, and he went off on Donald Trump. Tucker Carlson. Now, we know Tucker Carlson has been putting some gulf between him and Donald Trump. At the same time, I think Tucker Carlson still rides the fence because it's advantageous for him. But this may get him no longer invited to the White House. So let me share this with you guys, because Tucker Carlson essentially kind of drew a line in the sand. So shout out to Brian Allen for this one. Thank you very much. Tucker Carlson is in outrage.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology. Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. And we should never mock that, because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God. The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way. But it's not just mockery of Islam. And no president should mock Islam. That's not your job. This is not a theocracy. We don't go to war with other theocracies to find out which theocracy is more effective. We are.
Yeah. So this is the Crusades 2.0. That's what Donald Trump sounds like he's invoking. The neo Crusades right now.
Effective. We are not a theocracy. And God willing, we never will be, because theocracies corrupt the religion. No, this is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah without explaining any of it, you are mocking me and every other Christian because we're Christians. We can't support that. That is evil. That is an intentional desecration of beauty and truth, which is the definition of evil.
Needless to say, Tucker Carlson doesn't like what he said. That's what I gather. And so when it comes to people like Donald Trump being unhinged and basically saying that we live in a war economy and we're just going to focus on doling out death machines to other people who are only subservient to us and not respecting the sovereignty and self-determination of other nations, then it basically shows us that this empire is in really the death throes. It is throwing spaghetti against the wall to see if it sticks. And this is exactly what's going on. And so, yeah, in fact, he's becoming even more unhinged since then. And so I want to share this as well, because Donald Trump is really showing you guys that things are going to get serious. Please make sure to take the poll, because I really am serious about that question about a possible nuclear attacked by the United States. Shout out to my sister Sabby Sabs for tweeting this out. It says, sounds like a nuclear threat. Let's listen to what Donald Trump has to say.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. Both members of the crew ejected from the aircraft and landed alive. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
What do you know? What type of weapon do you know of that can have a blast radius that can cover a nation that is twice the size of Texas, that is roughly the size of all of Europe, or Eastern Europe? I'm sorry, Western Europe at least. What weapon do you know of that can take care of wiping out an entire population of people of that size? This motherfucker is crazy. That does sound like a nuclear threat. My sister does not miss. And that's exactly what it was. Now, I want to share with you guys because Donald Trump was talking about the rescue that happened when they tried to get the pilots out of Iran who crash landed. And I want to share with you this because I think this is important. Iranians, the United States has underestimated Iran in such a way where Iranians are actually largely a very free people. And I'm going to explain to you guys why. Shout out to Proud Socialist for this one, because this also shows what the Iranians did. And then I will show you in particular one Iranian in a second.
After picking up Dude 44 Alpha, the HH-60 Jolly Green fight was engaged by every single person in Iran who had a small arms weapon. And one of the aircraft, the trailing aircraft, took several hits. The crew sustained minor injury, and they are going to be fine. And after picking up Dude 44 Alpha, the HH-60 Jolly Green fight was engaged by every single person in Iran who had a small arms weapon. And
so every person in Iran, everybody had a weapon, and they were pointed it at the United States military. Now, let me ask you this. Let's just put it all on the table, right, don't you? If Iran is ran by a very oppressive regime, all these armed Iranian citizens, why aren't they going into their government and then taking it over and having a revolution? Good, don't mind me. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm actually curious. Why in the world? Why won't they take over their government if they are armed? Oh my goodness, they have a right to bear arms in their country? No. You don't say. Say it ain't so. Is Iran more free than what we're being told? Let me share something with y'all. Because there was a gentleman that did shoot down U.S. aircraft. 2 Black Hawk helicopters were shot down by this gentleman. Needless to say, he might be old enough to be my father. Right? From the looks of it. And he took down 2 Black Hawk helicopters by himself. Let's take a look at what he said. And this is straight out of Iran. That should be the logo on a shirt. So he said American planes and helicopters came into our land, and the governor gave us the green light to fire. He said, and these fighter jets make weird sound whenever they come to hit Tehran or Isfahan. Or wherever there's always this sound. We see them sometimes and sometimes not. We hear the sound really close. We came outside and I saw 2 helicopters coming out from that village. The jets came in really low, even lower than the helicopters. They were banking like this, going up. He said, I loaded my gun. He said one of them was higher up than the jets. One of them was higher up than the jets. When one of them came a bit lower, I fired 2 shots at it. Then I saw one of them coming really low. Said I did nothing until the next one. Then we fired toward the window. Right where you could see the pilot, I shot twice at the cockpit. And twice at the cargo so it would blow up. I fired 4 shots at the other one too. Did they see you? He said, I actually told my family to stay inside. He said, I'll get some distance from the house so that only I get targeted if they hit me. I had to shoot them. I swear I told the kids not to. After I fired a few shots, I saw her yelling, Dad, shoot. She was shouting, shoot it, Dad, shoot it, shoot, Dad. It didn't come down, shoot. So even his daughter was like, hey, even his daughter was telling him to continue. Said, now she asks, were you shouting, Dad, shoot it down? She said, yes. This is the little girl. This is his daughter. Said, why? And she says, for the little martyr girls of Minab, for our dear leader. Let me stop here for just 1 second. What if this little girl here was in that all-girls school in Minab, in the gym, playing volleyball with the other little girls that was bombed by United States Tomahawk missile? What if she was part of it? She took it personally. This little girl could be no more than between 8 and 10 years old. And she said she wanted that done because of what was done to the little girls that are like her in Minab. Because as far as she's concerned, that was her countrymen. She saw herself in those little girls. Think about what that does, with what seeing that on your TV does to a child. Iran didn't radicalize her. The United States did.
برای شهدای میراب رهبر عزیزمون دشمن آمریکا
She said to destroy the enemies, America and Israel.
و اسرائیل نابود کنه.
اخبار رو نگاه
Said, have you watched the news recently?
کردین چند روزه؟
She said, yes. And why do you think is that the enemy and should be shot at?
سوال چی بوده؟ چرا فکر میکنی اون دشمن بود حتما باید زدش؟
کودک
She says, because they are child killers.
باشه.
Little girl. Because they bombed an all-girls school in Menab between the ages of 7 and 12 years old. And also teachers and workers at the school were also murdered. I want to share this as well because the facts are the facts. Because why are we there? What happened in Iran and why is Donald Trump crashing out? This person, this gentleman, lays it out on CNN. Shout out to Thuso for this. Says there enters CNN. Let me share this with you guys. Says they didn't interrupt him for a reason.
Material is still in Iran. It is still in Iran, and we've done nothing to get it out.
If the goal of the war is to stop Iran from developing nukes, then we have no way to actually verify if they have enriched uranium. If the goal of the war is to defang their ability to fund proxies in the Middle East, they are now more rich because they're tolling people through the Strait of Hormuz, and that is making them a lot of money. We've created an environment where Iran is gaining money due to the sanctions lifted on oil. Iran is gaining money because they're going to start tolling ships. And on top of that, this administration is not just changing objectives every single day, they're lowering the threshold for what victory is considered as. So first it was regime change, as you said. Israel named this Operation Roaring Lion, which indicates the return of the Shah. It's regime change. Then they realized that's a really hard task. We're going to just talk about weapons of mass destruction now. That one kind of works sometimes. And they realized, okay, we have no way to actually verify that as well. So now we're in a situation where people on TV are listing off, oh, we've destroyed their Air Force. We've destroyed their Navy. Their Air Force was gifted to them 55 years ago by the United States. So was the Navy. Their Air Force and their Navy were not significant threats to the United States. They were ancient. They were ancient as hell. They were old.
So if that's the case, then they should have been easily defeated. Should have been, but they weren't. Why? Let's continue on.
So what have we gotten from this? We've destroyed their ancient fleets. We haven't actually secured the enriched uranium, and they're richer for it. They have control over the Strait of Hormuz and can continue to exert control over the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not seeing the victory here. Yes or no? Do you agree with Trump that this war is won?
I agree that we have devastated
Wait, no, do you agree that we've won? He said we've won. Yes or no? It's not a hard question.
If you consider a condition of winning destroying their military capabilities, their missile capabilities.
We haven't. Wait, if that's true, why can't the Strait of Hormuz be opened if their military is destroyed?
That part right there. That part right there. He hit the nail on the head. If the Strait of Hormuz, if we actually won this war, if this war is won, why is the Strait of Hormuz still closed? Why is it that we've lost a C-130 plane? Why is it that a farmer in rural Iran can shoot down 2 Black Hawk helicopters with his rifle? If that's the case, why in the world is Donald Trump still threatening Iran if he already won the war? It's because he's full of it. Donald Trump's so full of it, his eyes are brown. And so this is why. Why is your gas prices still so high? Because the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Because Iran said, you thought. And if anybody's been watching them Lego videos that Iran's been putting out, they've been putting out accurately, according to the news, exactly what's been happening. I can't play them because I don't want to get a copyright claim. But you can look them up on Twitter. They're there. In fact, they actually have a channel. There's one where they do all anime, and that's on Instagram. They've been doing full anime little shorts of exactly what's happening on the ground. So between the Lego movies and the anime, you're getting your news in a form of entertainment so that you know what's going on the ground. And a ton of Gen Z love anime. Hell, a lot of millennials my age, a lot of them like anime. And so people who are not into geopolitics, like people like myself, they're not politics nerds like myself. They're getting the news and they're finding this stuff. They're like, wait, this is what's going on? They're not watching CNN. They're not watching Fox News, Newsmax, News Nation. They're not watching CBS. They're not reading the New York Times or the Washington Post. They're looking online and they're seeing people talk about it. And they're also watching independent media. That's where they're getting their news from. And guess what? Donald Trump is getting pissed. And he explains even further. Let's get in.
Hold on one second. If it is true that we have won, why are we sending the 82nd Airborne?
Thank you.
Another point. Why are we still sending troops? Why are troops dying? Why are they dying over there if the war was already won? This is the equivalent of George W. Bush standing on an aircraft carrier with a big banner saying mission accomplished. That was the biggest lie. His pants are not just on fire, they are singed. There is no thread left. Only thing that's left is zipper and buttons. Zipper and buttons, Don. Zipper and buttons.
To be prepared for what happens next. If you exit this with an Iran that has a defanged as it relates to missiles, as it relates to an aggressive navy, you take away their ability to make nuclear weapons, and you leave the remnant here unwilling to be a supporter of terrorism, that is an unequivocal win for the United States of America.
I want to show you the very careful wording Scott is using here. He's saying if that happens, which means that he disagrees with Trump's statement that it already has happened.
Scott Jennings is an out-and-out Zionist. He is trying to make the case, and this young man that's probably old enough to be his son just sunned him. Scott Jennings just got sunned. That young man just said, Scott, sit your behind down. He knocked that. He's like, get out of here. This young man is using logic. He just outwitted Scott Jennings in 4K on live TV.
The reality is what the president is saying is incongruent with what's happening on the ground, and that's the scary part. One day we've won, the next day there's negotiations, the next day we've won again, but there's the actual on-the-ground reality that we are mobilizing thousands of troops to the Middle East. We are asking for $200 billion for this war, and I don't know, what are we getting for this? 86-year-old Khamenei was replaced with his 30-year younger son who's more radical, more extreme, is purging moderates. Can anyone tell me what we've gotten for this?
Somebody went to class today. Man. And this is why Donald Trump is unhinged. And for anybody who tells me oh, well, Kamala Harris, she would have done the same thing. No, Kamala Harris would have went to war with Iran too. Don't believe me? She said it herself. Let's get into it, y'all. Kamala Harris would have done the same damn thing because they're all cut from the same cloth, because they all have the same masters.
Hit on some more foreign policy. Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
Well, there are different reasons that we should be thoughtful about each. Most recently, I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. And look, I mean, Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? And what we saw in terms of just this attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles, what we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
So if you
And
have
that must
proof
be.
that Iran is building a nuclear weapon, would you take military action?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals at this moment.
That's not a no. That's not a no. So we can surmise that she would have done the same thing, because Netanyahu was pushing her and Trump to hold the same positions. It didn't matter whether we got Trump or Harris. The end result would still be the same. We would still be at war with Iran right now. The Strait of Hormuz. Now, granted, would the Strait of Hormuz still be closed by now? I don't know. Part of me thinks that the Strait of Hormuz would have been negotiated to be reopened maybe by the Harris administration, but we still would have went to war with Iran. And a lot of what we're feeling right now would have been felt anyway. Because ultimately, who owns both parties? The billionaires. If it's not George Soros, like a lot of conservatives like to invoke, controlling people like Harris, guess what? Miriam Adelson controls Donald Trump. Both of them are Zionists. Both of them are billionaires. And both of them want the United States to go against and attack Iran. And both are in support of Benjamin Netanyahu. So, granted, yeah, Harris would have done a lot similar, because ultimately it's basically like a red car and a blue car are basically on the same road. It's just one going faster than the other. That's the only real difference. The blue car may take some pit stops on the way, but they're still going to the same destination. And I want people to be very cognizant of that. That's why both parties are trash, right? So, because of what Donald Trump has said, I'm going to share this with you guys too. Because Donald Trump has said something deeply unhinged as well. And now it is going, please take the poll, y'all. I'm going to read what Donald Trump says, but I'm also going to read what Nico House said. So first, we're going to go here. Donald Trump says, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, which is a complete lie, by the way. Donald Trump is lying there, because Khamenei's son is actually more radical. Maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. If you're trying to use a nuclear weapon against Iran, then you don't believe in that statement of God bless the people of Iran, because you just want to destroy them in order to get what they have under their feet. That's ultimately what this is about. and you want to supply more weapons to the military industrial complex. And let me share what Nico House said as well, because this is deeply important. Nico says, Trump says the whole civilization of Iran will probably die tonight. Anyone threatening to obliterate an entire civilization is not fit to run a country, let alone have their finger on the button. High-ranking military officials need to step up and do their duty in whatever form that may take. And here's the thing. Donald Trump is essentially threatening nuclear destruction of Iran. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. That is how big this is. I'm going to tell you this. If Donald Trump was to use a nuclear weapon on Iran, this will be the second period of time that the United States is using a nuclear weapon on a civilian population. This will be the third time, because we used it twice in the first time. We used it against the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Now, if they hit Tehran, this will be the third time, a third city, I should say, where a nuclear weapon has been used on a civilian population. No other country has used a nuke on civilians, only the United States. And if the United States does this, my question is, especially in the poll, take the poll. What do you think there will be? Do you think there will be huge fallout where the people will go through mass civil unrest because of this? Or do you think it will just be protests in the streets? Do you think it'll just be apathy? Like, there's nothing we can do. Just whatever. Or you don't know. Please take the poll, because I'm curious for your answers, guys. Because ultimately, this is scary. Because this won't just affect the people of Iran. This will affect the people of the surrounding nations. This will affect Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, Palestine. It could even affect Egypt, Yemen, Iraq. This is how big this is. I mean, hell, anybody who in Russia that lives near the border of Iran could be affected. That's how big this is. It's scary. And I don't mean to scare you guys, but I mean to activate you guys into talking about doing mutual aid and building dual power, because this is why I talk about it. And people always say, well, this is why we want to have Democrats, because they will be better than Republicans on this. And my problem is Obama, Clinton, Biden, all the Democrats that were in Congress, for the last 40 years, all the Democrats that were in the Senate for the last 40 years, all the Democrats that pushed and tried to make sure that a third party couldn't be viable in the United States, and they subverted that democracy. All these people helped lead us to this point because the Democrats helped get this along to this point. The Democrats helped the Republicans set themselves up for a genocidal success. And so I don't want to hear from a liberal saying, well, the Democrats better. A Democrat is the laxative. And then what happens after you take the horse lax? A whole bunch of you-know-what comes out. Because the laxative caused it. They made it happen. They made it easier. They facilitated. So both are to blame. If I knowingly have a chicken coop, but I leave the door unlocked on purpose, and then a fox comes in and then tears up the chickens, guess what? Who's to blame? Do you blame the fox for killing the chickens? Or do you blame the person that purposefully left the door unlocked for the fox to come in? I blame both because, number one, the fox came in. But I also blame the person who left the door unlocked. Hell, some of them left the door ajar. And now you have a bunch of people that are basically defecting from Trump. I want to share with you guys Joe Kent. Joe Kent is defecting from Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. Joe Kent still agrees with the regime change policy of the United States, which led us to this point. Somehow that didn't get to him. But he's seeing some of the writing on the wall. He said Trump believes he's threatening Iran with destruction, but it is America that now stands in danger. You in danger, girl. If he attempts to eradicate Iranian civilization, the United States will no longer be viewed as a stabilizing force in the world, but as an agent of chaos, effectively ending our status as the world's greatest superpower. This would upend our economy and shatter the global order. The process is already underway, yet we still have time to avert catastrophe if Trump finds the courage to pursue serious negotiations rather than reckless rage and destruction. I'm going to tell you something, Joe. You're giving him way too much credit. Courage, there ain't no courage. There's only selfishness. There's only selfishness because that's what he wants. It's either all or nothing. They will destroy the world. They will destroy the world just to earn a dollar. That's how they are. Now, I'm going to share this with you too. Now they are calling to invoke the 25th Amendment. I'm going to start off with Ro Khanna because he's calling now because he wants them to evoke the 25th Amendment. Let's listen to Ro Khanna, and then we'll go over all the other people that are calling for the same thing.
If the United States Congress has any life left in it, every member of Congress and senator must be calling for Trump's removal today based on the 25th Amendment. He is threatening the entire destruction of a civilization. He is calling Iranians animals. He is showing a total disregard for the humanity of people in Iran, in Gaza, in Cuba. This is a moral crime. It is a war crime. We need to be demanding that Congress convene today, and we need to be invoking the 25th Amendment. If the United States...
I'm going to be real with you, Ro Khanna, but look, first of all, because you are backing people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that also led us to this point because a lot of times, because the Democrats, one of the places I blame is that the Democrats also were very ineffective at pushing for any type of legislation that helped the working class. And because of that, the working class turned to a maniac that they really didn't know. This is similar to the Dark Knight movie, right? Where the mobs, they actually turned to the Joker because they got pushed. They got pushed so far that they turned to the Joker. And they didn't know who the hell they were dealing with. And so the working class got pushed because the material conditions for them were not there because the Democrats promised and promised and promised and promised and nothing. Or if it was something, it was giving crumbs. And if I give crumbs to a starving man, guess what happens? That starving man still dies because the crumbs are not sufficient enough to save his life. So it's the same thing. People turn to somebody who they thought was actually going to change things for them, and he didn't. And so now the Democrats are saying, oh, we need to invoke the 25th Amendment. Baby, y'all should have actually made conditions so that this wouldn't happen in the first place. If you had actually fought for the working class like you were supposed to, then Trump would have been laughed off that escalator that he was coming down on the moment he started to run. He would have never won in 2016, and he would be back on TV being annoying as hell instead. But now, because you guys were ineffective on purpose, then now we are in this dumpster fire that we're in right now. So yes, I'm going to also place blame on the Democrats as well, because I don't play this partisan politics BS that some channels who consider themselves to be on the left play. I call balls and strikes. I wish more people would. Now, there is a few people who have also called for the 25th Amendment. And I just want to go down the list. And so I want to give a shout out to Julian Andrione, who shared a list of all the Congress people that posted that they are calling for the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office because of this. So you have Yasmin Ansari that's from Arizona. Ilhan Omar said this is not okay. Invoke the 25th Amendment. Impeach. Remove. This unhinged lunatic must be removed from office. Rashida Tlaib said after bombing a school and massacring young girls, the war criminal in the White House is threatening genocide. This time to invoke the 25th Amendment. This maniac should be removed from office. Another Democrat. Ed Markey said Donald Trump must be removed from office. Not only is he waging an illegal war, he is threatening war crimes to the members of our military. Remember, you do not have to follow illegal orders. Here's my question. Where were y'all when Joe Biden was allowing Netanyahu and giving Netanyahu weapons to commit a genocide in Gaza? Where were y'all? I know where Rashida Tlaib was. I will give concession to that, right? And I'll give some concessions to Ilhan Omar a little bit. But my question is, why weren't y'all invoking the 25th Amendment then? Don't do it just because it's Donald Trump and he's a Republican. Where were you calling out your own party for allowing this? And y'all knew he was cognitively deficient. Now, Sherry Thindar, let me see. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Republican, and she said, 25th Amendment, not a single bomb has dropped on America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil and madness. Crazy. I actually agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's correct. Diane DeGette. Let me see. Sydney Kalmagar-Dove. You see, Mark Pocan said the 25th Amendment right now. Trump is too unhinged, dangerous, and deranged to have the nuclear codes. Summerlee said this is sick and twisted from anyone, much less the president of the United States. Trump's genocidal language and indiscriminate warfare cannot be normalized or accepted. He should be removed from office. Delia Ramirez. Let me see. Sarah McBride. Seth Moulton. He said this is not just Trump being Trump. This is an insane man who's unfit for office. Let me see. Melanie Stansberry. Let me see. Ro Khanna, we already talked about. Maxwell Frost. This is my congressman. He said Donald Trump is an unhinged warmonger and war criminal using violence for personal gain and profit. While innocent people pay the price, we must stop this war immediately. Every member of Congress must stand up to these threats and put an end to this before more lives are lost. Congress must reconvene to pass the War Powers Resolution. The 25th Amendment must also be invoked. Congress has to do our own damn job. war powers, and impeachment. Here's my question. Why weren't we doing this for Joe Biden, Maxwell? Why weren't we doing this during the genocide in Gaza, Maxwell? In fact, Maxwell, from what I know, and talking to the Florida Palestine Network, you used to be part of, you used to talk about Palestine freedom and Palestinians being liberated, but you since reversed course on that when you had Joe Biden in office. So therefore, whatever you say is moot at this point, because you know everything about Palestinian liberation, and yet you turn your backs on them. So how can we listen to any word you say when you turn your backs on Palestinians, Maxwell? Shame on you. Because siding with the Zionists, siding with Israel, even for defensive weapons, no. All that for what? Absolutely not. I'm your constituent. I'm calling you out. Ayanna Pressley said, this is horrifying. Threat of genocidal war crimes. The lives of civilians and service members are at stake here. Congress must stop this war and remove Trump from the White House. So we have another Democrat. Let me see. Another Democrat from Jersey, another Democrat from California, another one from California. Let me see. Rob Menendez, he made a video talking about the 25th Amendment. Delaney Williams from Georgia, Cohen, Joaquin Castro. AOC had this to say. He said, this threat of genocide and merits removal from office. The president's mental faculties are collapsing and cannot be trusted. So every individual in the president's chain of command, you have the duty to refuse illegal orders. That includes carrying out this threat. My question to AOC is, why in the world did you vote for the Iron Dome and the defense weapons for Israel? Why? Because that led to this. That was support to Israel and wanting to push for this war. How many of those weapons that were shot in Iran that were given to us for defense that you voted for? Where was your spine when you voted against funding for the Iron Dome, but then Mama Bear Nancy Pelosi done checked you like you were a little girl, and then you started crying on the House floor because you changed your vote from yes to present? Where was your spine? Because a real adult would have been like, no, I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this. Censure me or not if you want to. I'll call a press conference. Where were you? And where is Nancy Pelosi now? My God. My God. So all these people that decided to say they invoked the 25th Amendment. And by the way, I only saw one person that was Republican, and they're a former congressperson, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Where are all the rest of the Republicans? So y'all just going to go with this? Is this about being pro-life? And one more thing I want to share with you guys, because I know this segment went long and the stream went long, but this was deeply important and I wanted to make sure I shared this. But one of the things I need to share with you guys is this. Iran is not some backwards country. And even if it was, it doesn't give us a right to do what we're doing. Even if it was, we don't have this right. But because Iran is a modern country, I want to share this with y'all. Because if I shared this without telling you this was Iran, you would swear this is an American city in this country. Let me share this with y'all. This is Iran. And it's just wholesome. Let's just take a look. So he's asking everybody if they would have coffee with me. Coffee or lunch, right? Are those Lay's potato chips in the back? Yeah, those are potato chips. Those are Lay's. Mm-hmm. It's just in Arabic. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
ببخشید میای بریم کافه؟ سلام. میای بریم کافه؟
نه دیرم میشه.
نه. خب بیا نهار بخور بعد برو. چرا؟ کاری نداری خونه. بریم کافه؟
سلام شما.
میای بریم کافه؟
If I told you this was Iran, would you believe me? If I told you this was Iran, because it is. This is Iran. These are young Iranians. She don't look oppressed to me. Hang on. Oh my God, they're so oppressed. Where's her head covering? Huh? This is in Iran. That's an Iranian.
ببخشید میایم بریم کافه؟
Iran. This is an Iranian. Dude looks like he lives in New York.
نه متاسفانه کلاس دارم.
Septum piercing and all. Iran.
بریم؟ جدی بریم؟
برم سر کار.
نمیتونی کنسل کنی؟
بذار یه زنگ بزنم ببینم میشه یه ذره این برام براش
لطف کنی. ببخشید. نهار خوردین؟
Yes, women drive cars in Iran. Now, talk to Saudi Arabia and tell me about that.
نهار خوردی هیچ. ببخشید میای بریم نهار بخوریم؟ آره مهمون من. ببخشید خانم میایم بریم کافه؟ میایم بریم کافه؟ سلام میایم بریم کافه؟ نه
She was like, no. That was funny.
میایم بریم کافه؟ سلام خوبین؟ میایم با هم دوست باشیم؟ هستیم؟ بریم یه قهوه بخوریم؟ پایه این؟ آره من واقعا با اینا دوست شدم سوار ماشین اینجوریه دیگه.
That's Iran. And this is what Donald Trump wants to nuke. He wants to commit a massacre, a genocide, a nuclear holocaust against those people. That's who he wants to do it against. And this is why it's so important for us to discover the real truth about what's going on there. Because ultimately, if we allow this to happen, what does that say about us, man? Go ahead and like the stream. Thank you guys so very much. I'm going to go over these chats and then we'll be on out. All right. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in for this. All right. So Mary Ploppin says, remember that the U.S. used Japan to massacre the Chinese in the ramp up to World War II. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Say Roger says, JB, what I just heard Trump say is it was going to be up to the states to get it done. Run CBIs because we're not giving it to you. Trump message received. He continues, says JB, the military is not standing in the way of social safety programs. It is our lack of will to focus inward and get it done in the states via CBIs and state legislators and governors. Yeah, but here's the thing. A lot of these state legislators and governors, they also want to reverse things that are beneficial for us. They have done that within my state. They're doing that also within other states as well. And so ultimately, when it comes to turning these things back to the states, there are some things that the states will do that will undermine the will of the people. And I feel like the federal government should be able to step in and say, no, this is what the people said they want, and this is what they should have. And it should be a universal thing. I think, we can do that, but it's not going to be. When you're running CBIs, you're still working within the system, and this system isn't working really. For real. Let's just be real. That's why I think, running these things are good for trying to mitigate the harm against the working class, but ultimately a revolution is the only solution. I'm just going to be real with it. How that happens, it's not up to me. It's up to the people, but yeah. Human Rights for All says nuclear wars, no one win. Yeah. Let me see. Chris says all of America needs to see this video. All of Americans need to see that video tonight. Teresa says reparations anyway. They can get it. Mary Ploppin says, you have American blood on your hands. Kamala, F you. Teresa says, fascism is bipartisan. I actually made a shirt and a mug with that on there. Roger says, so Vance will be Trump. Will Trump be the first president that we exercise the 25th Amendment on, or what? Here's another thing that I forgot to say during the segment, but one of the things I think is important that people recognize is that that you have Trump, Vance, Hegseth, and Rubio. They are all of the same mind on this. So even if you invoke the 25th Amendment, you're still going to have people like J.D. Vance saying basically the same things. And I didn't play it, but J.D. Vance basically said similar to what Trump has said. You have Rubio that basically wants the same thing. And then Hegseth, his bloodthirsty behind, still wants the same thing too. And so let's say you do invoke the 25th Amendment. Well, then are you going to have to do it again for Vance? Are you going to have to do it if Mike Johnson becomes president because he's third in line as the Speaker of the House? Are you going to invoke the 25th Amendment against him because he's going to want to do the same? And it's like, when does this stop? It is systemic. It is systemic. And so that's why, I talk about it's the system that needs to end. Let's see. Human Rights for All says might even get an EMP, electromagnetic pulse attack. Yeah, it is crazy. This is just nuts. So I am way over time, guys. I got to get going, but thank you guys so very much for tuning in to this stream. This one was a serious one, and I just did a reading for Presidential Black America and the Presidents, and I covered, I covered the president's, oh my God, blanking on his name already. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and I'm blanking on his name. Eisenhower, Kennedy, and excuse me. What? Truman. Yeah. I keep forgetting this thing about Truman Show, Harry Truman. But anyways, so I did a video about that one. That one was a juicy reading. If you guys want to, you guys can go back and read that or watch it and have, to my discussion. And so if you guys want to, you can look at that. Of course, there will be clips that will be throughout the week. And yeah, so I will be seeing you guys next week on Tuesday, as well as I'm going to try to continue the readings on Sundays and premiering them on Sunday evenings for you guys, so you guys can have that. So you guys want to catch that throughout the week, you guys can. If you guys ever see any of my video clips, if you guys like them, great. If you guys found value in what I talked to you guys about in there, then you guys can go ahead and also hype the videos as well on YouTube. You can't do it on Twitter, but if you guys can do it out on YouTube, if you found value in the clips that I post, you guys can do that. I very much appreciate it. And so thank you so very much to everybody for tuning in. Please go ahead and like the stream on your way out. Also, let me get into the poll. I forgot the poll. Okay. So I want to see exactly what you guys said. If I can, hang on. Okay. All right, let's go into the poll here. See what you guys said, because I wanted to make sure I got to that. I forget sometimes. Okay, so I said, if Trump were to use a nuke on Iran, do you think there will be nationwide fallout, social unrest? That's at 38%. So out of 58 votes, nationwide fallout, social unrest has a plurality at 38%. Mass protests, calls for impeachment, be 24%. Apathy, no real action is also 24%. Wow, interesting. 24% of you guys think there will be apathy or no real action. And then I don't know is at 14%. People are being honest with themselves. They're like, nah, I don't know. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a serious subject, and I don't take this lightly. I'm hoping that, and I'll be watching the news very closely tonight. So if you guys go watch people like my sister Sabby Sabs a little bit later, then I will be also like vacillating between doing, editing clips, watching Sabby, and then also watching the news to see if Trump does anything stupid or crazy, which he already does. But we shall see, guys. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Especially organize and organize. Watch anything funny because joy is revolutionary, or read because reading is fundamental. I love you guys for being you, because you guys make the world better and continue to keep making the world better, including not just your world within yourself, but those around you. Mwah! Forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. And I'm not going to say pray for peace. Pray for liberation.